Hey guys and welcome back to my channel. This is part 4 of what Naruto was the Kitsune of Whirlpool. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and also go and support the author, link in description. Naruto rolled into a ball, gasping and panting, grunts of rage and cries of grief filling the air of darkness as white eels and leeches attached and choked along his body. He couldn't stop them, he had fought so hard only to fail. He had just accepted this. Giving up so soon. Naruto tensed as his red animal self appeared before him in the darkness. Come on, you're Naruto, the Hanyu of the Kyuubi. Fight. Take out all that rage, release me. We'll destroy everything keeping us from real power. Naruto growled but cried as he tried hard not to fight anymore. It would only help the animal side. No, you'll hurt Hinata-chan, Bakiju-chan, Ayame-chan, Tsunade-ba-chan. You'll hurt Kakashi-sensei and Shikamaru-san. I won't allow it. The animal Naruto growled and released his own energy. Fight. Release me. Let me give you power. Release me now. Naruto fought the urge to fight, tried not to give that side of him control. Suddenly though, the white man made himself known on the other side of him. Yes, Naruto, don't give the beast control, let calmness flow, and think about your next move, but do not fret, everything will be okay. No one will be hurt, and the animal will disappear. Naruto looked at him and more carefully looked like a mix of Kyuubi and himself. He smiled as the red part of him growled. Not you, not the gutter brain of the troop. The white man smiled. Naruto, fight, it is what you're best at. Before you became the Hanyu, you were the Kyuubi, you had to live like an animal. You were the animal. Naruto looked up and seen the white side, the natural talent and brains take over. You've been the animal, now that this one appeared you're no longer able to think. I found myself in a forest, and found you, understanding what happened, now I am here to make things right. Naruto felt a tingle in his gut, telling him to fight, another in his heart telling him to think. He curled up more trying to escape when he heard a clash of swords. Die Einstein. The calm white Naruto swung back to catch the red savage Naruto, only for the swing to fall against more steel. White Naruto slid his sword front and no longer across his arm. The animal growled. Damn, you're smart. Unblockable techniques, and it'll take me 2 tails higher than you to evade. The white Naruto jumped forth and allowed his sword to cut the savage red in the shoulder and force him back. The real Naruto was curled up in a ball watching this and felt himself start wanting his own death, that way he couldn't hurt anyone with his own internal battles. He sighed before a white light and red light both covered his vision and he heard a voice. In Konoha Bakiju was with Hinata and frowned. Hinata-chan, I don't know if you can hear me. Naruto left the village, he thinks he's too dangerous to be around. He's unable to think straight and won't be back unless we help him. I hope you wake up, we need you more of all. She bent down and brushed the girl's hair back over her head and kissed the girl's head. Please, wake up, we need you more than you think. Hinata moaned and shrugged in her sleep. Naruto. Bakiju smiled before sitting down and letting herself sleep. Hinata was in a deep dream, but not really a dream. She was in darkness, but soon a light came and Naruto appeared, fighting an army of white creatures who were trying to devour him. After a moment though, he stopped and started to cry in weakness, and she couldn't help but run to his rescue. Every step though, she took away as he didn't seem to be getting closer with her run towards him. Soon though, a red figure that looked like Naruto appeared, and she heard him. She could hear all the words he used, wanting Naruto to fight and destroy. Soon after, another figure, one that looked almost like Naruto, told him to think and not fight anymore, but calmly think things through and fight the animalistic urge to destroy. She then watched as both white and red clashed in battle, dueling it out as Naruto felt hopeless. She seen them clash in battle and she couldn't take it anymore. Naruto. White and red blasted in light around them. The light faded to show Naruto and Hinata looking straight at each other. He looked sad but shocked before speaking. Hinata. Hinata looked happy as he looked sad. Naruto-kun, don't shed a tear. I have dreamt for a while, and even if it wasn't really from you, I'm glad that you were always there with me. So now let me be there for you. Don't sleep forever, Naruto. Stop this dream and come back to my side. Naruto looked down and shed a few tears. That's just it. I want to, but then again if I do, I don't know what will happen. I don't want anything bad to happen to you, Hinata-chan. It's something I can't let happen to you if I can help it. Naruto's words cut Hinata inside, knowing he was telling her his feelings hidden within, and now she felt determined. You can't hurt me, Naruto-kun, I know you won't allow that beast inside to be let loose. Now come back, we'll talk then, I want you by my side and not all alone. Naruto stepped forth and instantly held Hinata, who held back tightly. Hinata-chan, I can't. Not now, I'm too dangerous, and I need to go. If I don't I won't forgive myself if something did happen. Sorry Hinata-chan, I'll be back when I'm able to, I just need to destroy. The red Naruto jumped from nowhere and attacked the two lovers. Naruto quickly pushed Hinata out of the way before grabbing the red Naruto and thrusting him into the ground, just before the white Naruto came into attack. Naruto jumped and allowed the white to smash a Rasengan into the red and both separated before clashing swords against each other. Naruto got in front of Hinata and looked back. I can't allow their fight to take you, Hinata go. I'll return. Tell Bakiju, Lerxine, even Ba-chan. I'll be away for a while but I will return. I promise. With that he roared and allowed 9 tails to flow from him as he spiked his chakra, and as he did the force of such chakra forced Hinata from him, breaking their connection. Naruto. Hinata panted as she sat up on the hospital bed and Bakiju waking instantly to the scream. Hinata, are you okay? What's going on? Have a bad dream. Hinata sat there in a trance for a moment before struggling with the bed and sheets to get up but Bakiju grabbed the girl and tried to get her back down. Whoa, Hinata, snap out of it. You're still in minimal physical performance, you can't do this yet. Settle. Hinata kept up her struggle before she saw Bakiju's worried face and stopped looking up at the girl. Bakiju-chan. Naruto is he. Bakiju sighed before getting up off Hinata and brushing them both straight. Naruto ran away. He's struggling with some inner demons. He's not doing well and is afraid and unable to trust anyone right now. But I have faith that, for you, he'll be back in top form. Hinata remembered the connecting mindscape and panicked again. Naruto, he's okay but he's still struggling. I know what he's struggling against. Himself. Bakiju nodded. His animal sighed. Every demon and Hanyu of every tailed best has them, it's the transition that brings them forth. Hinata sighed before continuing. There's one more, he's facing 2 selves, one red and one white. Now Bakiju was confused. White. That's something new. Hinata, Naruto's gone right now but you're here, and right now we need to take care of you, so sit back down and rest okay? Get your strength back, then we'll try to bring Naruto back. Hinata reluctantly nodded before resting. She rested her head before getting a swift sight of Bakiju giving her head a kiss before running off. She blushed bright red before getting under the covers and going rigid. Bakiju ran into Tsunade coming from Lerxine's operations. How is she? Tsunade smiled. Stable and better than you'd think. Just then one of Tsunade's tails was shot off by a lightning rod. Not taking Naruto's run away very well. She ran back in and rocks lightning and explosions took the emergency room by storm. Bakiju ran away thinking it was a better idea not to be around when things turned up in heat. She got out of the hospital and ran to the nearest hotel she knew Cage would be at. She rushed up and into the room to see Cage and smiled. You know why I'm here, so tell me what you think. Cage smiled. Wait, that's all we can do. Hinata's probably going to blush for the next 3 hours, Tsunade is going to need a hair growth serum, Lerxine's running out of Raiden chakra, and Naruto. He's most likely killing himself in his head before going to see about the spy and sound. We have a full 3 days to make it to that bridge. After that he's got a couple weeks to get back in order before participating in the exams. Altogether, I see a bright future. Bakiju came in and sat next to him. Think Hinata will catch on. Cage scoffed. Soonest I can see is when I use it. She'll notice for sure when it happens that Naruto is going to need more than her help. Bakiju nodded and looked out. He's out there, scared out of his mind, afraid he'll attack us. Wish I could help him but he's already gone. Lerxine sighed behind them. Afraid of that, but I guess this is what happens when he doesn't listen. Third Eye or not, he's going to need everyone's help. Cage, you see the worst possible future for him right now. I want to know what he might be up against. Cage bowed before raising once more. Yes, he'll be up against at least 2 Akatsuki and then sound itself. Most of all maybe 3 Akatsuki but I can't be sure. Bakiju and Lerxine smiled and held hands as they all prayed for Naruto. Naruto ran through the forest, 9 tails flowing behind him and his speed was too fast. He was a red blur, a flash of red, yellow and white charging through, rushing to an unknown origin, one grand entrance to his grieving incurable exit. He jumped Trunks on the ground, spun himself on high branches, dug himself into the ground and jumped high into the air but his bloodshot eyes and amazing speed didn't deter. It was all gone, it was nowhere, his sanity was finally broken. Naruto roared as he ran through a tree and kicked high into the air and flipped over a branch before kicking down and rolling to the ground, skidding, grinding and stepping again, rushing, skipping along trees and dodging leaves. He was a demon with a mission. He ran till night and continued to run, but his mind was not there. In it though, wherever it was, there was inner chaos. Animal Naruto punched Naruto himself to the ground before getting kicked in the stomach into the air. The white Naruto was rose, then flipped and spun before slammed into the ground, then smashed against the animal inside, and forced them both into a neck-choking session before both tried to claw Naruto's guts and eyes out. White Naruto huffed as he drew his sword again. I told you before, if you won't get it through that skull of yours, I'll make you do it. He rushed to Naruto to have him dodge, grab and flip white Naruto into a punching animal side before both flew back with Naruto coughing in pain from the punch's force even through another body. Naruto was forced into the ground by White Naruto and the animal side roared with power and cracked the White One's jaw open before having a broken knee from Naruto himself. All three flashed themselves away from the others and all panted deep breaths. Animal Naruto grinned. There ya go Naruto. Come on fight me some more, do it destroy. Come on. Naruto growled and tackled him before they wrestled, punching faces and kicking guts onto the floor, White Naruto going in and each trying to overtake the other and others. Naruto stopped and allowed the animal side to destroy his jaw and nose and break a few ribs before they separated. White Naruto looked at the smile and smiled himself before stepping forth. What do you say? Shall we? Naruto nodded and they grabbed hands before both glowed, then the glow fused and shaped into a Naruto with white eyes and cloak. The animal side struck to an unmoving Naruto who smiled and allowed the assault, punches and kicks becoming nothing to a no-tailed Naruto from the nine-tailed animal. Naruto grinned before pushing the animal back. You're not too smart. You have a choice, either choose us, or choose death. The animal growled. Choose what? I can't die. Naruto nodded, saying he could and the animal calmed before smiling. Like I said I can't die. Like I got a choice. Make sure to let me loose every now and again okay? I can't be locked in forever, it's not right. Give me at least a fight or savage release of some kind. Either training or killing or even a good jerk, but release me sometimes. Naruto smiled more and red light fused them. Now Naruto's eyes were blue again and the cloak was flame red and orange swirling all around a white purity. He sighed before smiling and then closing his eyes and allowing a blue light to forge through. Hinata shone through. Hinata, if you're getting this then I won. Now wait for me. I'll see you during the exams. Train with Bakiju. She'll probably be able to train you in some good fighting. She's a massive force to deal with so beat her a few times and you can beat anyone. I love you Hinata-chan, now get some rest. He let the Hinata go and then sighed before exiting his mind. Naruto sighed as he dropped and stopped in the middle of the forest. He knew he must have made a mess with his raging direction and chaotic mind battle. Alright then, Kusa should be nearby. But if Jiraiya is right, and Kage is always right along with Jiraiya's network, then in AIM the Akatsuki made home base. If I go alone, I'm most likely to have to battle against the spy, Odo itself, and Akatsuki. With all the power I unleashed it's not going to be very good. He sighed and scratched his head before groaning in frustration. I'm in such a mess. Junin and Kage leveled Shinobi in unbelievable odds, it's not good. Wish I had some backup. Alright, ready or not, here I go. He started up again but faster than before even without his Hiroshin abilities. Whoa, guess the fusion of three sides make up a faster stronger being. Alright, now I'm pumped. He acrobatically sailed through the night and day to find the bridge in time. Little did he know, this was a one-time deal and would only last for as long as he was awake. A day and two passed and the spy arrived at the bridge in brown and Naruto appeared before him. You're Sasori's spy right? The man grinned. Naruto huh, where's Sasori? Naruto frowned. He's dead. Now tell me why Orochimaru is posted outside of Konoha. The spy chuckled. Wrong, after you passed through a week back, the entire Odo army returned to Odo. But you're never going to find our hideout. Sasuke is there and we can't have you taking his thoughts away from training. Naruto sighed. Afraid of that. Look, one way or another I'm going to get Sasuke and then your entire village of traitors is going to die. The spy chuckled before revealing himself as Kabuto. Sorry Naruto, but you're a goner. You may be the Kyuubi now, but Orochimaru-sama is still stronger. Orochimaru appeared and smiled evilly. Naruto-kun, how about you come to me, I could use a potential guard such as you. Naruto shook his head before getting into his Hyuga stance. Orochimaru lunged forth and tried to take Naruto's head only to be grabbed and lunged into the bridge and down into the abyss below, but Kabuto tried to cut some system functions in Naruto's body only to fail as Naruto blocked and blasted a wind shard into his shoulder and into the woods. Naruto stood there waiting and waited no more as Orochimaru took his feet and dragged him down into the abyss too before pulling Naruto through the earth and trees and slamming him down only to have his face kicked in a flurry of fingers cutting into his body and kicks breaking his bones before stopping. Naruto stood above him and growled. Don't do that again. Take me to Sasuke or you're going to die here. Orochimaru laughed. If I die then you lose track of where Sasuke is, and you'll never find him. Naruto pounded Orochimaru's face in before stepping away and allowing the man to regenerate. Just then though three men in black appeared. Great. 4-on-1, that's not fair, you might need to bring that damn pain along or else you're never gonna win. Deidara grinned. Nice talk for such a weakling, A man with an open cloak and white-yellow hair with a large weapon on his back smiled. Jashin-sama will enjoy this. Another man with a mask and pale charcoal eyes smiled. This heart is very powerful. Orochimaru laughed. Hidan, Kakuzu, long time no see. What say we all four make a truce and take this Jinchuriki down? After that we can fight for who takes him. Naruto smiled before doing a series of hand seals. Kami Yonkaze, Kamasan Arashi. Kai, god of the 4, 3 winds, storms. He blasted with energy and nine tails, wind and static covering his body, and everyone started getting cut by the massive power of sharp winds and shocking lightning shocks. Naruto rushed in and instantly killed Orochimaru by tearing him to shreds and burning his body to a crisp before turning to the other three. You're next. Attack at once or you'll never have a chance. Deidara shot some C1 and tried to take Naruto as Hidan drew his scythe and sliced, Kakuzu doing his best to figure out this power. Naruto's wind took out the explosives from Deidara and at the same time allowing the scythe to hit him, but smiled as he broke Hidan's arms off. He walked forth and got a C2 explosion in his face before punching Deidara into the ground and throwing him into the air, then punching Kakuzu, who almost didn't make it in time and disassembled himself where the wind could not take him out. Hidan made a circle and stepped in before his arms moved on their own and shoved the scythe into his now dark and skeleton-like body, but Naruto was unfazed before taking Hidan's head and burning the body. Deidara though was in the air and was making his better C3 clay type. Kakuzu got himself back and then turned hard as earth before using a powerful water jutsu against Naruto, only to have it turn to steam and then blown his way, cutting him back into pieces. Hidan was no more and Naruto grinned. You should be glad, you're the first ones I used this jutsu and combo on, and the first to die by Kami's hand. He roared and took on 5 entire jutsu onto his body. Earth, lightning, water, fire and wind, all hitting him broadly before they all vanished and Naruto shocked Kakuzu into exploding to bits. Naruto looked up at a massive dragon that hit him and forced him deep underground before exploding him. Deidara sighed up in the air. He's tough. Killing 2 immortals, Orochimaru who could regenerate in an instant and almost taking me with them. Naruto rushed back from the hole and Deidara was scared now before taking of his robe and shoving every ounce of clay into his body using the mouth in his chest. He saw an entire army suddenly start fighting Naruto and was glad for it as he needed time to charge the C4 blast that would kill him and everything there. Naruto destroyed the entire army and Kabuto using every ounce of strength he could have and then took to the sky before seeing Deidara's grin. Art as a bang. Ha Katsu. And with that the area exploded in a brilliant white light. In Konoha Sasuke grinned as he stood over a sleeping Hinata. Naruto, you'll feel the pain I felt. Now don't disappoint me and let me prove I can beat Itachi. And with a supercharged Chidori in his raised hand he struck down. Die. Sasuke tried to ram his Chidori into Hinata's heart only to stop inches away from hitting and grunted in surprise and shock. He tried to move but found his body was a statue. Just then though, his Chidori turned down and vanished, Hinata still resting. He sighed as he found no movement at all. What happened to me? Am I getting cold feet? Nope. He could still move his head and found a man behind him, a red band around his head and a medallion around his neck. I stopped you. Be thankful Naruto cares for you so much or else your heart would have stopped. Sasuke growled but he allowed him to feel the pain of his stomach twitching inside him and stretching then contracting until he felt like he was going to be ripped from the inside. Now, be a good boy and shut up. You're not killing Hinata. I was to make sure no one got near the wounded here. If you promise to leave and never return I won't have to put you in here. Sasuke thought a moment, recovering from the sudden pain of being ripped apart. He sighed. I'll leave. I understand your control here. He let Sasuke's hands and arms become numb and limp, making them go to his side before allowing Sasuke to move, in which he did by walking away angry. Tell Naruto, he better bring everything to our fight. He sighed then looked to Hinata. Your lucky Kage is so vigilant in his future visions. Hinata dreamt as he stayed awake and wondered how Naruto and his journey outside went. Boy, Kage better tell me everything or I'll have to force it out of him. So annoying. The nights slipped by and so did the weeks, then the exam's beginning day was announced and everyone gathered for the event, visitors and competitors alike. Genma sighed as the winners of the prelims stood before him, but all but one managed to make it. It began with 6, but there are only 5 of you left here. Hey, where's Naruto? He forget or something? He directed that at Hinata and Kiba, in which Kiba shook his head. Hinata didn't back down. He'll show up. He has to. Naruto-kun promised me. Up in the stands, where the cages gathered, Tsunade sat beside the Uzi cage, who had a strange face on. He smiled, looking a lot like a man in his 60s but still majorly young in spirit. Your 2 genin seem to be having a good time getting attention. The man smiled more. Not really, they're just pumped from all the action that will take place. Tsunade looked on suspiciously but looked back. She whispered so no one would hear. Naruto, please, you're out of time. Genma sighed. As Naruto Uzumaki is not present he will be. Don't bother announcing that, I'm here and ready for a fight. Everyone looked at him and Hinata smiled wide as he came up and hugged her before turning to the proctor. He whispered in her ear though how much he missed having her with Hai before that though. Genma smiled, and also noticed Naruto take a stick from his pocket and started chewing on it. Genma, start the matches. He nodded then told everyone but Kiba and Haji to go to the fighter's box. Kiba and the blue man faced each other as the rest went up, where Naruto held onto Hinata from behind. Sorry I'm late, miss me. Hinata blushed but let Naruto embrace her, leaning back against her love. It's alright, I'm just glad you're here. Sasuke scoffed. You're disgusting. Naruto sighed. Yeah right, aren't you the one who said you wanted to revive your clan? How can you do that without getting a girl to love you? Sasuke shut up and Naruto and Hinata watched as Kiba and the Uzi Genin locked eyes. Haji grinned, his shark-like teeth showing menacingly. From Naruto's team, I hope you're strong mudhead, or I came here for nothing. Kiba growled before he and Akamaru got into attack position. Akamaru, now a little bigger as he grows each month, turned into a clone of Kiba as they each turned beastly. Haji got ready as well and Jinam raised a hand. Fight, Starto. Kiba and Akamaru zigzagged in front of each other as they rushed Haji who didn't move until they reached. Haji kicked the leg of one Kiba and punched the jaw of another and sent them flying in different directions. Kiba and Akamaru got up and each did a spinning tornado jutsu they so loved and both collided where Haji stood, only to find themselves hitting each other and Haji in the air before landing a few feet back. Haji sighed. No skill. Kiba yelled for the both of them. You'll see. Kiba and Akamaru them spun and zagged, trying to be unpredictable as they hit Haji, forcing him back and into the wall of the stadium, only to find he blocked the blow. Haji smiled though. Well, at least you managed to damage me a bit. And all I am is seriously on the defense. Uzikage smiled and laughed. Haji is serious, but not attacking. Your genin is majorly strong to do this to us. Tsunade nodded. He's almost guaranteed Chunin this time around. He used his unpredictable beast-like moves to hit, and he has the ability to almost speak with his mind to tell his partner how to move. That's Chunin abilities if I ever saw them. Kiba and Akamaru jumped into the air and Kiba yelled again. Ultimate Beast Taijutsu. Kitamano Renda Sum. Beast barrage of claws they landed beside Haji, one on each side before running forth as if Haji was behind the real one somewhere before one took the other's arm and threw him in. Haji who noticed the two happened to claw their way into his shoulders turned and tried to block the claws this time, and managed to do so before finding a claw go into his stomach and then a force of their kicks making him go back. He grunted before looking but noticed them gone. Up here. He locoed up and found two tunneling fangs of death suddenly come at him, and before he could dodge or block, he was hit in a huge crater formed by the wall and inside, Haji lay grunting in pain and bleeding, with Kiba and his dog standing above him. Haji laughed before getting up weakly. I forfeit. Kiba and Akamaru went up in a yelping joy of success where he got a congrats from Naruto and Hinata, which were hugs and slaps on the shoulder and back. Genma sighed as Haji left the stadium completely. Next match between Hinata and Kilafuki. Will both candidates please come forth for your match? Kilafuki who was staring at Sasuke the entire time left without much of a word and Hinata tried to follow suit but Naruto pulled her shoulder in and when she turned backwards to stop from falling she met the eyes of Naruto and her lips connected to his. Hinata went stiff as Naruto kissed her gingerly and with a deep sense of love to it. Kiba grinned. Whoa ho hoo, Naruto you sly dog. Hinata didn't hear a thing as she just grabbed onto Naruto and kissed him back before they stopped. Naruto grinned. Win your match and get back up here for another Hinata-chan, and do your best. He slapped her butt and with it pushed her through the hall to go down in which she went rigid for a second and blushed beet red before going down. Down at the floor Kilafuki smiled. Romance, it's such a wonderful thing. I won't hold back so better give it your all for your boyfriend Hinata. Hinata nodded. Thank you. Let's go shall we? Her father was in the stands looking at his daughter and hoped she made it this time. Hinata slapped her hands together then separated them quick as her claws suddenly attached and came to life on them from nowhere. Sorry San. I must use something else than the family style. I shall show you my strength. She yelled it so her father Hiyashi would listen and Neji and him both looked surprised as she crouched down and into her strongest fighting position. Genma called the fight and Hinata wasted no time as she roared forth with amazing speed and shoving her clawed hand into Kilafuki's shoulder, but just barely scratching as he dodged it for a split second. He dodged back and smiled. You're pretty fast, must be the extra footing you had that gave you a quicker push. Hinata smiled. Saw that. Well you're half right, let me show you again. She got back into position before blasting off then rolling under Kilafuki, between the legs and then, suddenly bouncing back and shoving him forward, turning she smiled and gave him another cut into the same shoulder and allowed him to dodge back when he hit the ground. Kilafuki panted before smiling. I see, you use your slim body to cause the wind around you less resistance, allowing you greater speed when you kick off. You're very good. Hinata smiled more. I'm better than that. Now to show you my true strength. She stood rigid for a moment before opening her eyes which were a lavender color, a lavender in the middle and grew duller and whiter as it went out, and her eyes started to be less strained as the veins by her eyes were gone. No Hyuga has ever achieved this after the war was starting to end. It's called the Zenkugan, the final form of Byakugan. Do not forget, we whose eyes turned from the Rinnegan, also gave birth to the Uchiha's Sharingan, 2 forms for each eye. Kilafuki grinned. I've only read about that in a secret scroll my Uzikage gave me. I'm glad to know that it has not completely disappeared. Kilafuki, who was really Itachi, knew all about that eye from the Hokage, but only about what it looked like, not how it worked. Hiyashi grew silent, but in his mind he found nothing but pride. His doubtful daughter, the one who shamed the name Hyuga for so long, has reached a peak of power not seen since before the wars. Neji didn't understand and asked his uncle, "What is the eye, Hiyashi-sama?" Hiyashi regained himself. Zenkugan is a form of Byakugan that was used and achieved by great powerful members of the Hyuga, and with it they could do anything. They kept their secrets though. No one knew truly what it did, but it was said that the eye was like the eyes of Kami himself. Only reason it was lost was because the Hyuga changed during the wars, and with it, most of their power. We are the strongest clan in the world, but still, even we can grow weak. My daughter has found it again, and even renounced her Hyuga family arts. Maybe a change is what we need to stop being so arrogant all the time. Neji looked forth, amazed that his cousin was able to get those eyes. Hinata got back into stance but didn't move, and so Kilafuki took charge and tried a slide kick, which she jumped to dodge. He got back up in time to dodge a spring spin kick and try a punch which was blocked before he was thrown down to the ground and a claw found its way to him. He managed to dodge on time and kick back before going through seals. Kaden. Hidama no Jutsu. He spurted fire from his mouth only to find a shield protecting Hinata, a special shield he never seen before. A string of ribbons and tentacles shredded his fireball to bits. Hinata smiled as she named the technique. Amatsu Kaden. Heavenly rotation. Neji looked on with Hiyashi in pure amazement at the skill of Hinata's technique. It was so fast the chakra field was not spinning like normal, instead it was the speed of Kami himself. The strings too made it lethal to anyone who got near. Kilafuki sighed before giving it another try on Hinata, who dodged the punch by going back, but in a second her clawed hands touched the ground and suddenly a massive force struck Kilafuki and forced him back and in the air, with Hinata jumping too from that special bicycle kick. Atsuen Ikazuki. Rolling thunder. She wasn't done and roared with rage, her blood boiling when she suddenly flashed yellow and had her claws shoved inside Kilafuki's shoulders and pinned him to the ground as her foot planted itself and hitting Kilafuki in the stomach. Naruto looked speechless. On top of the tower of the stadium, Jiraiya and Minato stood and their jaws dropped before Minato spoke. She did it. How in the world did she learn the Hirishin in less than a month? It took me a year. He shook Jiraiya into a short coma as he said that. Kushina in the stands gawked before fainting. Tsunade and the audience were gasping from it. Kilafuki grunted. Forfeiting. Hinata got up and her claws were gone as she smiled and waved, the crowd loving her as she showed so much skill. Neji was already fainted but Hiyashi smiled, amazed and should be fainting but smiling so he could still be awake to wonder what happened. You managed to learn the Yondaime's move. Hinata. What happened to you? As Kilafuki got up he looked to Naruto who nodded. Kilafuki left the stadium as Hinata came back and was flashed to the wall, her arms pinned by Naruto's and his kiss rough and passionate. The very contact made her wet her kunoichi pants and her moans started with the tongue in her mouth. She fainted right there and fell to the floor when Naruto pulled away. Naruto looked shocked before trying to wake up with no use but her blushing face and slight mumbling. Kiba fainted too but Sasuke turned and went down as Genma called them. Naruto smiled and gave Hinata a kiss to the cheek. Sleep well my angel. He went down and cracked his knuckles before they met down there. Sasuke scowled but Naruto just looked up at the tower, and knew his father was there. Naruto with his sky blue eyes looking up there, his blonde hair flowing in the wind, and his red-white flaming coat flowing with him. He smiled up, and his father nodded. Sasuke growled. Are you here to fight me? I want to prove once and for all I'm better than you. Naruto sighed and looked down. Sasuke, let me tell you something. You ever think you can beat me and your thoughts need a recheck? Tell me, what's my name? Sasuke scoffed before Naruto looked at him and he smiled. Hey, I'll humor you, weakling. Your name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto suddenly laughed hard and Sasuke got mad again. What's so funny? Naruto just laughed before stopping a moment later and looking at him, then turned to the crowd. My name is not Uzumaki. My name is Naruto Namikaze. Son of the Yondaime. You ignorant pricks. The crowd gasped and Naruto grinned before looking to Sasuke. I was burned, cut up, poisoned, beat to a pulp and tortured beyond your imagination. You think Itachi and his Mangekyo was bad, you think losing your family is bad. I lost MYF after when I was born. And my mother left me. But that was not her fault. Danzo is a lying snake. Now, Sasuke, remember this, you think I don't know how you felt. You said I didn't know anything at the Valley of the End. I know worse than you. You have no clue what I gone through. Sasuke growled before drawing his sword and attacking, in which Naruto dodged to the right and talked again. Your family died. You watched your father and mother cut to PEICES. Hell, I was cut to PEICES. Sasuke cut again only for Naruto to jump then back up a step. Your entire clan gone. My entire clan died before I was even born. Shut up. Sasuke tried to slash again but Naruto dodged once more to the left then ducked the second strike. You have no clan. Sasuke yelled as he cut down to find Naruto behind him. Uzumaki. That is my clan. They were in the wars. My uncle died. And I feel his strength every day. Kushina felt tears as Naruto talked, and smiled, seeing Naruto genuinely feeling for Soma. Sasuke yelled for another shut up to Naruto and tried a few cuts, finding Naruto dodging each one easily. It wasn't easy to dodge as Naruto found Sasuke get lucky and cut the arm of his coat. Minato stood up and gasped. Oh shit. This is bad. Jiraiya was confused. What? Minato felt a power surge and Sasuke seen Naruto suddenly pulse in chakra and killer intent. Naruto looked like he was promising death. Minato felt a crack. Remember the times people cut my coat up? One little cut into the cloth and what happened? Jiraiya thought a moment before losing color and turned pale. Naruto's the same. Sasuke's in trouble. Minato nodded. Cut a Namikaze's coat and you better pray whatever prayers you know before you're dead. Naruto growled. Sasuke. You fucking asshole. He punched Sasuke who flew to the other side of the stadium. Naruto growled before taking his hand and fixing the cloth. Never cut the coat again. He took it off before rolling it up and throwing it to the contender stand. Minato looked scared. The seal is gone now. I felt it break before the exams but now, it's completely gone. Jiraiya fainted from fear. Naruto growled before calming down a little. Sasuke, I had a seal that kept me from using my full power. It held 20% of it back, and now I am at full strength as a human. As a Hanyu I can become even stronger. Sasuke got up and looked mad. Naruto knew he was no match for Sasuke in this form. He had trouble trying to dodge last time because he needed his Hirishin skills to do so. It would be easier now but he still needed it to fight Sasuke, who could have beaten Orochimaru any time. Sasuke didn't pick his sword up but instead rushed in to try and get his punches in, torture Naruto before killing him. Naruto ducked then forced his legs from under him as Sasuke sweep kicked to get him off his feet, and managed to land a hand after the kick finished, but now he was vulnerable and Sasuke saw this chance to punch Naruto. As his hand got close a sudden wind passed and where his fist was, Naruto disappeared in a flash of yellow, and he was now a good distance away from Sasuke and on all fours. He got up and sighed. Sasuke, you're good, your taijutsu has become nearly flawless, but there's one thing you forget. I was trained by a Sannin too, and I even came up with my own moves, which are unbeatable unless you're too fast to so-so. I know you're not faster than me though so better keep those pants on. Naruto raised a hand and then circled it above him. As he did a thin line was made, a thin white line in a circle around, and his hand shot up in the middle and he just stood there. Sasuke didn't know if it was complete or not, but didn't want to take the chance of it getting done, and attacked. Naruto grinned as Sasuke tried to punch through but the circle suddenly shot out and captured his arm and left him stunned and unmoving. He is able to completely subdue his opponent, but since he never taught me, and I am no good at genjutsu, then I have to use a ninjutsu replica. The white line forced Sasuke to punch himself and then disappear, only for Naruto to thrust a Rasengan into Sasuke's stomach and force him back in with a small twist in his body. Sasuke grunted before standing and unpained. He was very mad now and picked up his sword. Naruto, I was going to humiliate you, but now I'm just going to kill you. Die. Sasuke rushed in only to find Naruto not moving an inch. Sasuke thought he gave up and tried to slash through Naruto in one slice, only to find himself 10 feet away and Naruto just standing there unscathed. Minato looked dumbfounded. What was that? Kushina, who was still a little emotional, looked amazed at her son's progress. Sasuke got up and tried to rush again, this time being blown back and knowing it, by some kind of blackening dome that surrounded Naruto. He got up and panted, feeling like he just got stabbed by a million swords. Naruto took a few steps forth then stopped again. I'll only say this once, either quit and come to jail quietly, or I will have no choice but to use all my techniques to kill you. Sasuke stabbed, only to have him roll from his sitting position to a few feet away again. Damn it. Sasuke got up and tried to get behind Naruto, only for the same thing to happen, the dome protecting him and Sasuke blown back. Naruto sighed. I guess this means you're going to die. Sasuke attacked again and again, all his attacks just bounced off the barrier. Lerxine in the stands smiled. Idiot. Knowing the Chidori yet he can't feel a thing. Bakiju who was beside her looked to Lerxine. I'm not a Raiden user, so I don't know what's going on. What is it Lerxine? Lerxine looked at the dome that appeared every attack. Raiden users mainly sense all Raiden in use at any time. This is Raiden. Naruto is creating some sort of electrical field around him that's sending Sasuke back. Naruto grinned as Sasuke just sat there wondering what was happening. Sasuke got up on shaken legs though nonetheless. How are you doing this? Naruto sighed before explaining. Raiden users have the ability to sense other Raiden chakras. Sasuke, I can use Fuden and Raiden easily. What you're hitting is dome of electrical air currents I created to prevent any attack against me. The wind is connected through strings, swirling around me, and the electrical currents flow through those swirling strings of wind. Using the Earth's own magnetic fielding I made my own, even more perfect than Gaara's sand or the Hyuga's Kaden. I like to call it Mahugoe, magic guard. Sasuke growled before Naruto raised his arms and then metal shot out and he grabbed onto them, and they turned into two swords along his arm. Sasuke growled more. What the fuck is that? Naruto smiled. It's a unique skill. Only those with perfect chakra control can manage to use this technique for even a moment. This is Mitten, and it is a secondary element and similar to the Shadaime's Mokuden. Tsunade looked to the Uzikage who seemed unaffected. You've seen this technique before. The Uzikage smiled and nodded. Many times, but never got this close before. I only heard rumors before seeing it from far away. Naruto was suddenly trying to block every attack Sasuke gave, his swords blocking left and right. Naruto grew tired of blocking, but as he blocked he made swift then slow changes to his tactical blocking. Sasuke seen this with his Sharingan active but didn't mind it as he kept on. Minato looked on grunting. Geez, this is bad. Jiraiya who finally woke up looked more at it. It seems he's okay, what's wrong? Minato pointed. Look at his eyes, what do you see? Jiraiya looked closely before seeing a glowing blue, then gasping. Kajushinke. He's not even acting as if he's pumped up and ready for a fun battle. Minato sighed. Soma could do that easy. Naruto perfected Soma's technique to getting it running instantly, and he's using it to use his Hirishin skills and blocking all of Sasuke's attacks. His strength is barely what it was before, right now he's probably mid-Junin level. Jiraiya looked on and found it was right. Naruto was using everything to try and get stronger and not use his tails for Sasuke. Naruto blocked and blocked but suddenly his arms shifted over and over again and Sasuke had a hard time getting through the blonde spots, but as the shifts began so did he see Naruto moving away and blocking and rushed forth to stab Naruto, only to find himself get hit in the back of the head. Naruto stooped over Sasuke who was laying on the ground. He backed off and dodged the slash his way and seen Sasuke get back up. Naruto sighed once more. Sasuke, give up. Don't patronize me. Naruto gasped at that. Sasuke turned, angry. Use all your power. I know you're holding back. I want to defeat you when you're at full power. Naruto sighed before breathing in, taking a deep breath. His eyes opened and the glowing shined brighter in his eyes as red chakra surrounded him, and in an instant his ears and all nine tails shone forth. Naruto's whiskers were now protruding from his cheeks, real whiskers as his fangs grew too. You asked for death, and so, let Kami have mercy on your soul. Naruto laid a hand to the ground and his other turns behind his back. Kitsune Taijutsu Ugi. Sasuke didn't allow him to finish and rushed with an electric-powered sword, only for Naruto to force a kick through his stomach, then another and another, kicking again and again, twisting right and left then right again and not letting up even when they hit the wall. Naruto finally stopped before using the Hirishin to flash himself back in the middle of the arena. Heigashi Kiku Yochi. Furious kicks of earth, Sasuke fell to the ground from the crater inside the wall. Naruto sighed. 1 out of 3 special techniques that Kyuubi created, I had to make my own variant of them, and they're much more powerful and flawless. Sasuke grunted, getting up again. He took away his pain with anger and just raged forth again, only for Naruto to stand tall, his arms up and clapped together with a leg twitching in a slight crouch. As Sasuke struck once more Naruto's hands dropped and the sword crashed into the ground before Naruto kicked Sasuke into the air, but that didn't stop as Naruto punched Sasuke high into the air, above the stadium. As he punched and elbowed, giving fatal blows of energy to raise Sasuke he called for everyone to hear. Kitsune Taijutsu Ugi. Genkiha Ude Tentou. Crushing arms of heaven, and with the final punch that forced Sasuke into the first cloud Naruto rose above him before clapping hands then spinning quickly. Only for a moment did the spin last as Naruto suddenly kicked Sasuke and a red chakra enveloped them both as they rushed down, crashing to earth quickly. Naruto spoke one last time before they hit. Kitsune Taijutsu Ougi. Akuma Kiku Kinokita Naraku. Devil kick decent to hell, and with that they crashed. A small crater formed and a deeper than imaginable hole was formed, and when the smoke totally cleared Naruto stood at the hole unfazed. Kitsune deciding Taijutsu. Supreme fatality. Naruto walked away from the hole before stopping and looking back as Sasuke was lifted from the hole with red chakra and then flopped to the ground, unconscious. Your fate will not be decided by me, the one Kami looks down on. Kami will seek out your fate. After the match was called, Sasuke was forced into chakra-sealing jutsus and then dragged into prison to await punishment. Hinata woke up the moment Naruto did the final technique and was amazed, but now the fight had to go on. Kiba though forfeited the match, saying he wanted Hinata to go on to show she had the stuff it took to be a Chunin. Naruto and Hinata met on the field and both smiled. Naruto grinned first. Hinata-chan, don't go easy, alright. Give me your all, and I mean don't you dare hold back even a little bit on me. I want to see how you grown these past days and weeks. Hinata nodded. As you should too Naruto-kun, give me your all, or I will never forgive you. Naruto nodded and gave her one last kiss before they got ready into stance. Genma looked to Hinata, crouched in with her lavender special Byakugan, and Naruto in a Hyuga stance, and raised an arm. Final match of the Chunin exams, Starto. With that they both rushed and collided with power. Final match of the Chunin exams. STARTO. Hinata and Naruto rushed forth and with her claws she easily gashed her way into Naruto's shoulders, but he then vanished and the real Naruto took her by the waist and lifted her up before spinning her around and taking her feet. He span her round and round before letting go and letting her fly to the stadium walls. Hinata didn't hesitate, a skill she learned thanks to Naruto, and perfected thanks to Kiba and Shino, and stopped herself from flying anymore with her claw weapons, and with her Zenkugan, ran forth on all fours before pouncing to Naruto and shoving a claw straight into Naruto again, but this time he stayed still and her Zenkugan saw why. She was stopped for a moment before being blasted back and landing on her limbs gracefully, like a cat lands on all fours. She smirked and so did Naruto who got his sword out from his arm again, and this time, rather than the usual length of arm style he chose to use often, he turned the blade towards Hinata. Kushina looked blankly. I wonder why he's changing sword motions. He never did this in training, and he always seemed to do better with the sword back along his arm. Naruto, what are you keeping a secret from me? Hinata sprang forth again and as did Naruto. They clashed, sword stopping the claws from getting near him, and with that stalemate Naruto used it as a chance and ducked, letting go of his sword and upper kicking Hinata's stomach and forcing her into the air before taking the falling sword and using the blunt edge, almost breaking her shoulder before going back down. Hinata-chan. She turned quick from the shoulder blow and in an instant, using her chakra, shifted herself and as Naruto got closer, she completed her technique. Atsuen Ikazuki. Using her rolling thunder she forced Naruto into the ground below and using the momentum of downward thrust from doing so in the air, used her claws and cut into Naruto's leg as he tried to run quickly to his feet. He smirked before spinning and kicking hard, forcing her away. He had to admit, holding back a little would give her some excitement to use her greatest ability. Hinata huffed before growling, her features becoming more angry. She was in rage, smirking in rage and lust for taking on Naruto, who had his Kujushinkai activated and his fox form at full power now. This is where the real fight began. Naruto got into Hyuga stance, his sword thrown away and allowed Hinata to get into position. After she did, Naruto grinned and launched ahead, using the Hiroshin to quickly get to Hinata and punch, only for her to duck then do another Atsuen Ikazuki on him, but he span in the air and dropped, using his new Akuma Kiku Kinokita Naraku and in hopes of ending, but she did not falter and parried his skill with an Amatsu Kaden, and getting shredded a little from the tentacles before falling backwards and landing. Naruto launched again, in hopes of doing a finishing blow, but his spinning Senku yo-yo and palm thrust managed to be blocked and he was ferociously attacked and clawed up by 10 strikes, but he healed instantly and smirked, both of them at a stalemate. Minato and Jiraiya looked in amazement. He's even better than I thought, using such moves even when in danger, but that Hinata girl. Minato smirked at Jiraiya. She's got it. Fuden. Only way she could have sensed and parry Naruto's drop kick. She's got Kami's eyes and a style never before seen. She's got the skills it takes to be a Junin, hell even an Anbu Elite Force Squad member. Lerxine and Bakiju looked shocked. Bakiju was not speechless, unlike Lerxine. Hinata is good, even maybe to me in demon form. It'll be a pleasure to give her some fun when we get with Naruto together. 1010 should join us too. Kushina was just smirking wide. That Hinata, I knew she had it in her. I always told Hiashi she'd have what it took to become great. Now I'd love to see Hiashi's face with this little battle. Too bad she didn't get her wish. Hiashi was fainted from overexposure to Hinata's awesome powers, and Neji was currently joining him in the shocked realm. Tsunade didn't say much, just enjoying the amazing fight, as the proctors passed them both on having the power and abilities to use strategy so well. The Uzikage smirked. I wonder if they are going full power or not. It's a shame if one of them wins because of the other holding back. Tsunade nodded but silently commented on the chances of that ever happening. Naruto and Hinata both grinned, growling at each other for more. Naruto then changed his stance slightly, forcing his palms into fists and bending the arm at his side up a bit. Here's a tribute to the creator of this technique, and I thank Kage for allowing me to learn this. Hinata, you better fight with everything you got. Kage Yugu Bushi. Wind Fusion Fist. Kage, who was in the stand, smiled. Shikonaga, Kana-chan, you live on in this world, and I will never forget you. I'll soon join you, so, if you are watching this, please, I hope you're honored with his skill with your technique. As soon as Naruto called the technique out, a powerful blast of wind made itself known, making most duck from the high velocity, but it soon stopped and when everyone looked, even Hinata did, as they saw and gasped. Naruto's limbs were swirling and blurring out like the wind itself would do if it would be seen. Naruto smiled. Tataki, this technique is honored as the greatest technique ever created by their greatest hero. Now Hinata, I hope you're ready, I'm going all out now. Fight. And as he said so, they clashed, Hinata moving to Naruto and using her Amatsu Kaden in motion was an incredible feat that Hiashi once again fainted from seeing it, and she used it to parry Naruto's super concentrated wind punch, managing to block it mostly, but her power was weaker, forcing her back and Naruto to land normally. Naruto gone again and struck, only to be clipped by another claw, and then having the other stab into his heart before being thrown back. He didn't fly to the wall. Instead, he did fly, and raised into the air before diving and spinning, making a drill of wind with his fists and making contact with Hinata's rolling thunder kick, which cost her a broken ankle, but she roared and began to pick apart and slice open Naruto's heart, stomach, lungs and legs, as he flew right and left, back and up, ducking with every possible direction. Naruto decided to end it and rose again, this time stopping and winding his arm before spinning again, in midair, and dropping hard. Hinata jumped to meet him, using her heavenly rotation again, both seeming to be at a stalemate, but just when it looked to be lost on anyone winning, Naruto did the unexpected. Hyuga Kata. Gojuu Hirate Kaden. Hyuga style. 50 palm rotation, he appeared everywhere surrounding Hinata's own rotation, and then, in 3 simultaneous strikes from each Naruto, it broke, and then came the storm. Each one of the 5 Narutos struck 7 times in quick and simultaneous succession. One Naruto attacked her arm, forcing the chakra strings inside her body to change direction. The 2 at her legs did the same, as the one at her other arm, but the real Naruto attacked her body. 1 strike each to her vitals, stomach, liver, both lungs, heart, and then 2 to her digestive tract. When they finally fell, Hinata fell backwards in stun paralysis, and Naruto fell to the ground safely. He got there first in order to catch her, then set her on the ground. She's not going to be able to move right now, Proctor, call it. He nodded and called Naruto the winner. After it was done, he patted each limb once, and then poked Hinata in every place but the lungs. He knew being where he was, doing that would look like he was being perverted. He picked her up, but in no less did he do so, then a rumbling sound made itself clear in Konoha. The Uzukage stood up and grabbed his face, taking it off and showing a slightly older face, one with only one Sharingan eye, opposite of Kakashi, and a smirk covering his face. He took off his coat to show a blue cloak underneath. It's go time. Tsunade. Mobilize all shinobi now. Tsunade was shocked, but didn't stay that way as she too got up. Who the hell are you? He turned to her. Obito Uchiha, former member of Konoha, and member of Team Minato. Now mobilize all shinobi now. Akatsuki are attacking. He jumped through the stand opening and soared to the gate before running off somewhere. Tsunade didn't have time to be surprised and quickly called her Anbu to start mobilizing her forces, and get civilians into cover areas. It didn't take long before Akatsuki found them. 3 people wearing Akatsuki robes stood in front of Naruto. One big and ugly, as if having 2 extra faces, another rather normal looking for a male with piercings, and another that looked like a girl somewhat, her hair done up a little but still their eyes were all the same, rings of some sort as their faces were covered in black piercings. Jiraiya knew those eyes, and when he and Minato made it to Tsunade they elaborated. Tsunade, we need all new Junin and below in power or rank, to quickly make their way to safety and evacuation efforts. This is the Rinnegan, and I don't think it'll be a picnic. Tsunade nodded. Naruto growled, backing up with Hinata in his arms. So, you're Akatsuki. Let me guess, a subdivision. The most normal of the 3 took a step. Come quietly, or face the wrath of the 6 paths of pain. Naruto smiled. You're not gonna be able to catch me, so why should I go anywhere with you? Taking that as a no, the normal-looking one raised his hand, and in an instant Naruto felt like he was being pulled and was starting to fly to the man, but thanks to his Senku Yo-Yo, he managed to get back in time before running off, hoping to lose them. Before any of the 3 could go though, Jiraiya, Minato, and Bakiju stood in front of them. You're not leaving. The girl vanished out of thin air though, leaving the 3 quite unable to catch her, or lose the other 2 in the confusion. The normal-looking male turned his head. I never thought I'd see the day. I'd return to meet and face you again one day, Jiraiya-sensei. Minato looked to Jiraiya. Know him. Jiraiya went back in time, remembering everything as he viewed the man's face. As this little diversion was made though, the weirdest-looking one took off, leaving the 2 to deal with just one. Jiraiya growled. It was before your time, Minato, but I had other students, during the war in Omegakure. Minato nodded, but Jiraiya looked his way. Leave this to me. I have some personal business to take care of. Minato nodded, hoping Jiraiya was strong enough to do something about this, and began to chase down the bigger ugly lug that passed by. Jiraiya looked a little stoic. Hello again, Yahiko, or should I say, Nagato. The pain didn't so much as blink. You figured it out, I seem to notice. Jiraiya nodded. Reports of Yahiko's death roamed around before those black plugs of yours brought you back to life. It's impossible to bring people back to life without someone in return dying, and so, your eyes are Nagato's eyes, but Yahiko's body, meaning, you either relieved with TH eyes, or Nagato is simply controlling the body. And seeing as there are other Rinnegan eyes, when it has been extinct for years, means only one thing. Nagato is controlling the body. Nagato smiled, though the body did not. Give up, sensei. I do not wish to kill you, even if I may never forgive you for leaving us in our time of need. Jiraiya sighed. I didn't leave you with nothing. I trained you more than I would most kids your age, and allowed you to understand teamwork, and gave you the greatest skills to protect yourself with, like you asked of me, but I needed to go my own way. We couldn't stay together forever, I couldn't even stay with my own friends forever. Forgive me or not, I will not allow you to stomp on my home, nor will I allow you to kill Naruto, or any other person. Ever. Minato managed to catch onto the ugly lug and used his Hiroshin to appear in front and slam kick him into a tree. Sorry, your fight's with me. And me. Kushina had also appeared, her blood-red coat donned and her katana, jagged and blood-red in her hands. Kushina and Minato smiled at one another before paying attention to the man. Now, get ready to die. Minato Namikaze, and Kushina Uzumaki, will be your death. They said that together. The man chuckled before getting sliced in half by Kushina, and being pummeled into a bruised piece of metal. Minato saw inside and seen explosives and planted his own before rushing Kushina away. They both got to safety quick enough and managed to kill one pain. They left to try and see what the other commotion was about. At the south of the village, Kakashi and Asuma were currently trying to live at the hands of summoned animals. A pair of wild three-eyed and large rabid dogs came after Asuma, who was using his own Fuden-powered blades to dodge and block. Kakashi was up against a bull of some sort, trying not to get himself killed in a single moment. They were unable to keep the girl occupied when that and two others managed to break the walls to the stadium. Asuma got tired of all this and just cut the dogs into ribbons, not without serious arm troubles and injury from bites. Kakashi got a chance to pull off a fire jutsu, one that turned the bull to ash quick. After they were done though, a new pain made itself known. This one was a chubby fellow, one that didn't look like one to fight much but rather than look a gift horse in the mouth at being able to finish one of the peens. Kakashi blew a huge fireball, and after he immediately used a wind-powered jutsu to back it up and force the fire to blaze harder, but what should have killed the member, was gone, as if vanishing as it hit the man. Asuma quickly took charge and tried to get the man, but sadly was unable to hit. The man was using an opposite wind current to block the chakra blades. So, while Asuma managed to do some time with the pain, Kakashi used his Mangekyo and forced the pain into another dimension, heart first. Asuma and Kakashi clapped hands before hurrying off to finish the evacuations. West side of the village, Shizune, Yugito and Kyuubi were at a stalemate at a long-haired man who looked rather stoic. He didn't get poisoned. Fire abilities from a one-tailed Yugito didn't work, nor did anything combined from all three women manage it. Tsunade though made a quick appearance. Leave them alone. The man didn't do much of anything but stare. Tsunade took her coat off and charged in, fists flying, but the man was too quick and dodged them all, even managing to give a kick or two, but in the end got smashed by a kick to the head. Tsunade tried to finish it with her favorite heel drop technique, but the man was way too quick and got up in time to punch her in the chest, making her fly back into the wall. Shizune had aimed while the fight started, and managed to dice in a few poison needles to the body, but Yugito went full demon in the time being and started her attack. Nibi form was a cat made from pure hell fires, and that was what managed to help the fight on their side, as she used a mirage of jutsu, fireballs, fire arrows, and even some fire rings that turned and span. Her pouncing and scratching did their stuff, but nothing took this guy down. Kyuubi didn't back up either as she got everything she had for one attack. She jumped high into the air and spun front ways, flipping forth over and over again and even got faster as she did. It was going to be it, her final attack, and she was going to make it count. Kyuubi growled as she fell hard and fast, spinning still, but as she reached the man her voice rang and a small crater was formed. Kitsune Taijutsu Ougi. Akuma Kiku Kinokita Naraku. And with that she was on the ground, faint from so much use of her weakened state, never again being able to use her full powers of being a tailed beast. The man however was never going to hurt again, being thrown into the earth, and when Shizune herself looked inside the hole, saw nothing but ashes left. Yugito turned back, and weakened from her form, was her only duty to take Kyuubi to safety as Tsunade and Shizune took off to help someone else. The girl Pain was following Naruto, trying to gain ground, but as she tried, she learned of failure in keeping up. Though she was finally able to do so, and found him kneeling near the Hokage mansion. She summoned a giant bird and walked forth a little. You still have the chance to come quietly, so do so and Konoha will be spared. Naruto grinned though. No way, you guys are never gonna catch me, hehehehe, I just needed to get my wits before going again. And with that he disappeared, his chakra well. The girl got on top of the bird and flew high to try and find Naruto again. A large bulky hammer of a man was currently sucking the soul of a Junin sent to destroy him, and when finished found himself surrounded by only two people. Two girls in fact, Bakiju and Lerxine taking him by sides. Lerxine grinned at Bakiju. Think this will be enough of a challenge for you. Bakiju drew her large moon scythe. She also took 2 scrolls from her pack and smiled. I don't know, how about we just attack together? The Pain didn't hesitate one bit and ordered his demon once more to rise, and as he did he made sure to go after the largest of the signatures, who was most definitely Bakiju and her demon. Bakiju jumped up dodging quickly before gathering one scroll, and as it strung up, the swirl of it attaching to the handle of her scythe and then lengthening over and over until stopping 20 feet long and turning into a chain, Bakiju threw it onto the ground and turned the chain rigid, forcing herself through the air quickly to dodge the second strike from the demon-summoned monster the Pain called forth to eat her. Lurksine drew her kunai and tried her best to force the weapons into her opponent, the Pain dodging to the left and grabbing her fist only to find a quick jolt and stun, allowing her to move back and spring a kick into his back. It was rather soft to him and he turned, while his demon did its work, to face the Anbu captain of Taki. Bakiju grabbed onto her scythe's handle, having lifted it from the ground and then spun, making her scythe do the same around and around her body in midair but called forth her attack. Wangetsu Tsuki Kaier. Crescent moon slice, and the scythe launched, spinning in vertical circles and slicing the arm of the demon in half until it cut the demon itself into a half, but didn't stop there. Minori Tsuki Odori. Harvest moon dance. The scythe then began to slice, slash, gash and rip open the demon, dancing elegantly as if a model ballerina, and in the end, it stuck into the ground where the demon stood, but now the demon was dead. Bakiju landed and her scroll contracted back once more, and she grabbed her scythe, looking carefully as Lurksine and the man dodged and exchanged blows, kicking and punching, shocking and bruising. Lurksine was having fun, having someone tough enough to not be knocked back by her electrically charged punches and kicks, and able to grind out enough speed to dodge, even if it's only slight, her quickest jabs. She jumped back and allowed herself to charge herself to maximum, even though she was pretty close to it as she wanted to go all out. Her body was covered in lightning for a quick second before she jumped up again, and actually knocking the Pain back a step with her strongest punch, and kicked him up a little in order to do more damage, as she twisted and used another kick to force him into a building. He soon got back up and rushed in, striking hard only to find Lurksine unharmed but grabbing his arm. Your punch was perfect, what you forget is Pain is useless against Raiden users. Lurksine twisted the arm over and down and jumped up, twisting herself and sending a lightning quick and voltage-powered double heel kick to the Pain's face and forcing him back again before getting punched in midair, which, without anything to cling to, she flew into a nearby building, but never showed Pain. She got up and brushed herself, allowing the Pain to observe her power level carefully. You know, I only showed this technique to Cage, and I was hoping it would be enough to kick his ass, but to tell you the truth, I'd much rather show him my power from his visions, and have him tell me directly if my full power could really hit him. Every time I got near hitting him he always dodged, always blocked, I couldn't hit him worth a shit, but now you're going to be the first to see the full use of my strongest technique. Lurksine's power suddenly surged, her cloak flying up and out in directions galore, electricity flowing and shocking everything, even hitting Bakiju and Pain, but not phasing them at all, for the jolts were contained, not powerful going out, as Lurksine got the most powerful surges she could muster and suddenly disappeared in a yellow light that shrank in itself, not going anywhere like the Hiroshin. For a few moments, both Pain and Bakiju just looked around, but it didn't do well to find the Anbu captain. But soon they found her, in the air as she called out her attack. Ultimate Raiden Taijutsu Ninjutsu Combo. Muteki Arashi Sendo. Invincible Storm of Death. Pain didn't register what was happening, but Bakiju did and ran fast to get out of the way. Lurksine became lightning in itself and jolts shot out time and time again. It was a millions bolts of Raiden aimed directly at Pain, and all around to prevent any escape and possibly hit directly and kill. Jolts hit. Lurksine's body was just shooting bolts over and over, hitting Pain and all around like it should, but Pain didn't move, just took it all. A jolt struck her. A bolt hit him in the ear, a strike of lightning making its mark near, never stopping the barrage as the storm Lurksine created was designed for killing a single enemy at any cost. As soon as the last bolt struck Lurksine herself became a jolt of lightning and struck hard, and turned the Pain into powder. She panted as she used all her Raiden chakra, managing to kill the Pain in order to fully turn the tables on this battle. After it was over though she noticed someone nearby and looked back, seeing a white dusky cloak and a hooded man and saw the scarred foot, she then began to panic slightly. It's you. The man took off his hood and grinned wide. You bitch, you and the other bitch and the 9 did a number to me, now I want revenge. His white skin, green eyes and golden short locks showing. You shinobi, think you're hot shit don't you? Well now you're gonna face the true power of Shirohakume's Jintai Hakuben. And with that, wheeled forth with amazing speed like last time, with Lurksine out of it her body was not fast enough or strong enough to move, and was going to be struck by the man's dangerous killer palm techniques. In her mind, Lurksine begged for forgiveness as she knew Naruto would never forgive her if she died, but begged anyway. Naruto was atop the Hokage mountain and up there he hoped for enough time and quickly poked both of Hinata's lungs, in which nothing happened. He checked her, and found that, in the time it took to run, her lungs almost completely stopped from the strain, and now her body was getting closer to a death-like state, and he needed to move quickly. Before he could do anything though, the pain made its way to him and he growled, making a Kyo shot attend to Hinata and focused mainly on the pain. Alright, because I don't want to keep Hinata from treatment, and she needs it badly, you and me go at it, but we don't do a thing to Hinata. I come with you if you win, but Hinata is spared from any contact, understand? I know somewhere inside you there's some honor as a shinobi left. The bird pecked at Naruto only to have Naruto do a devil-decent kick again, and broke its beak, making it vanish. He growled as he summoned a Rasengan and jammed it into the pain, who grinned. Just before the pain fell in a dead heap, its hand waved, and suddenly, another pain appeared, and when Naruto looked he went wide-eyed. Jiraiya. The Yahiko pain clone was holding Jiraiya in hand. Actually, in his hand a black sword of some kind was stabbed into Jiraiya's body, killing him as the pain looked to Naruto. It is time to die, Kyuubi. Come with me now or suffer while we pull out your demon and its power. Naruto growled, his power flaring, and attacked the pain, throwing a punch in hope to kill the man for killing his sensei and godfather. Die, bastard. Jiraiya awoke in a blue field, and thought he might have made a mistake, letting that last attack hit him. He got up and walked through the grass and blue bells. He always admired their beauty, the simple, yet wonderful color and shine they held, but also, knew of their strength in the world. Blue bells held a lot of love and want in them, but also irritation. Blue bells were never supposed to be alone, and when they were, like most fields show, they turned an eerie greenish blue, like they weren't happy at their own kind being nearby. He smiled and picked one up and walking to the next field, finding violets a bundle, and smiled, picking one and placing the two together in his hand. He looked at them and sighed. It's only a dream, isn't it? The blue bell and the violet. Just like us, right? Tsunade. He put them in the ground and started walking off again, wanting to figure out if he was in the world between the living world, and the two separate worlds of heaven and hell. He soon found out, as the fields blackened, and soon he was the only patch of field left in his little world here. He looked forth, knowing the stories well that when some people saw black, it meant a guidance spirit to help. He smiled more as he seen who was sent to comfort him. It's been a long time, Jiraiya, a few years if I am not mistaken. I hope you and Naruto had fun together, it would have meant every second was a good one. Are you feeling ready, my student? Jiraiya sighed as he listened to his sensei. Not yet, there are a few things I want to talk about, Sarutobi sensei. The third Hokage in all his glory nodded, accepting the challenge. Naruto has to deal with my death, and he hasn't even been able to fully understand the death of a relative. He was a baby when his father died, and now, he has to fully get slugged by mine. Will he be able to handle it? Sarutobi took a puff of his pipe. He'll have troubles along the road, but I have confidence he'll understand, and if anything, he'll even respect how you died. Naruto will be fine, I guarantee you this, my loving student. Jiraiya nodded. Thank you. I do have one final question though. You told me about your final son once, a boy who you sent to Taki before the Uchiha massacre. I wonder, who is he? I've been through Taki through and through, and not one peep from anyone about such a boy arriving. Sarutobi smiled sighed. He did though, as Kakashi is proof, he was the Anbu I selected for the escort transport. Trust me, he's in Konoha as we speak, you even brought him here. Jiraiya thought about that for a moment. Sarutobi interjected. Did you know, I was once a Hyuga? Jiraiya looked at his sensei surprised. I was, and in my attempt to leave, I made sure my eyes were removed, crushed, and my blood fully taken out and new blood poured into my veins, and stated a new life. Thanks to the first and second to have helped create my new life and identity. My firstborn, Asuma, he didn't receive the Hyuga bloodline, but when I married an Uchiha, who died because of my old Hyuga identity not being all that secret, she gave birth to my second and final son, who, because of the strong blood of me and the Uchiha flowing through his veins, was adopted, and inserted into the family with Itachi and Sasuke. Jiraiya heard about a transfer from that family before the massacre happened, but never got a name from his network. So, he had the Sharingan, but no one in Taki has it. Even if you were true about this, the boy would have it by now. Sarutobi smirked. He was also born with pale eyes, but they turned gray soon after and then adopted. White eyes mean what? Jiraiya thought then got pale. Byakugan and Sharingan. Sarutobi nodded. Now, he would not have shown this when activating both eyes. But he was able to do it. Now, you know who I'm talking about, right? Jiraiya nodded before smiling. It's not that hard to accept, knowing your strong attitude sensei, seems I just missed it. Kage. He's your son. Sarutobi nodded. Anything else? Jiraiya stepped forth. Let's go, Sarutobi. I want to meet everyone again. They walked off into the darkness into the plane of pure souls, and smiling as they left everything to the younger generation. Naruto flew back away from Pain, who had a hand pointed out to Naruto. Naruto grunted and got back to his feet. Pain let Jiraiya fall to the ground and turned, walking to Naruto. I gave you 3 chances, and yet you failed to come willingly. If only you did, then Jiraiya would still be breathing. Naruto used his Hirishin and punched Pain to the ground before lifting Jiraiya up in his arms. Sensei. Baka. Jiraiya, you didn't have to take his on alone, you could have had me, or my 2-san. Pain got up and looked on, waiting. Naruto cried, looking in anguish as the color from Jiraiya drained. As it failed, Naruto's resolve didn't. He flared his chakra, his power growing. He took the sage chakra from Jiraiya and turned, having a more menacing look as his face and body grew hair. He was turning into a kitsune himself now. Pain. He stepped up a few steps before stopping. Demons are demons, monsters who destroy, who inspire fear, who are hated to the very bones in their bodies. Demons pay for destruction, demons pay for being what they are, but did anyone give them a chance? Demons were not given the choice to be demons, but rather forced to fight to survive. Pain hummed in curiosity. Naruto growled a little. We were hated, detested all because we had powers, we had immortality, we had everything in the world, we were different than normal, and so, the normal people took their hands and crushed us into being nothing more than abused animals, and when we finally fought back because we didn't think it was right, they called us monsters, demons, and fought back. Demons were victims, not murderers. Demons were forced to kill, forced to survive by destruction, and I am a demon, but this demon will do what he can to save lives, care, be who he can to make everyone's lives better. Now, Pain, I have one thing to say. Naruto's hands lit up, one with a blast of wind, the other lightning. He crushed them together and in one arm, 3 rings appeared, shocking wind currents to hover above the arm. I highly recommend pissing yourself. Naruto shoved one ring into his arm, which lit up fully into a wind-fused lightning arm. Followed by begging for forgiveness. He shoved the second into both arms, and his body became lighting and wind itself, but only the torso. And if you still have the time, there's always the option of a well-formed suicide. Now die, bastard. He took the third and put it into his heart. Reifuden Kami Kitsune. Lightning wind of heaven's fox god. Pain took no time and pointed to Naruto, and Naruto was pulled to him, but that was a bad idea as Naruto disappeared, but really soon after he was shot by a bolt of lightning, and turned to see Naruto floating in midair. I'll make you suffer for your murder, I'll make you pay dearly for killing Jiraiya. He disappeared again, and Pain caught him close by and tried to repel Naruto, only to have him shocked by another bolt of lightning and being forced into the mountain by a tornado of wind. Naruto began to shock and force Pain's body into shreds, but not too quickly. The Pain tried in vain to stop this, only to have himself shocked and blown with cuts and gashes and holes filling his body. Though that was sent to an end as Naruto was stabbed through the heart by a blade of some sort, a crystal sword. Naruto disappeared again, but the sword didn't move, as it was being held. Akatsuki must be really weak to not handle the 9 of all people. Pain looked to see a hooded man, but not for long as the hood came off to see a bulky chin forming a very carnivoristic man, someone who looked like he was more fit being a lion or bear, and with those scars on his face he seemed to have lived through hell. Naruto looked at him before growling. Who are you now? The man grinned. Please, I told you before, until you're worthy enough to have this blood of yours staining my sword, my name will never elude my lips. Naruto disappeared only to be stopped by Hinata, who was up and in front of the man. Naruto, take Pain down, I'll handle Shirohakume. Naruto didn't move for a moment before disappearing in the wind again, and the wind carrying his words to Hinata. Take him down. She smiled and got into attack position. Naruto is much stronger than I am, so if I beat you, won't that mean he deserves a name? The man chuckled in response, not speaking as he put his sword on his shoulder. Hinata growled and shot up and straight, speeding and ramming the man down the mountain. She would prefer not being near Naruto when he exploded. As they tumbled, Hinata used her animalistic instincts and got on her foot mid-fall and skated herself straight before running down, following the tumbling Shirohakume down the mountain. As they reached the bottom, she jumped up into the air, and spun herself elegantly as if she were dancing before falling straight down, and spinning more violently and making herself into a drill, her chakra exploding into the air as she expanded and sharpened her body to penetrate. The man grinned and brought his sword up, and it did manage to block the drilling move of Hinata, but her eyes shone bright purple and she stopped spinning, grabbing onto the edge and pulling hard, forcing her body where she wanted it and slamming her foot into the man's groin. The man didn't even budge as he grinned more. That won't work on a man who has balls of steel. He twisted and forcing Hinata off him and slashed, and in Hinata's haste to recoil and force her body up to block, she missed the attack and got hit in the elbow, and felt as if her arm was dangling on the very veins of her body. She looked and seen her arm only scratched and shook lightly, her breathing becoming erratic. The man got his sword and looked at the blood, smiling. Ah, pure blood. Virgin, huh? Well, it's no surprise. Hyugas were always boring pricks with sticks up their asses. Hinata turned, her arm stopping its bleeding. She roared into the trees, which sounded more animal than human. The man felt his gut tell him to run for it, but didn't listen, only curious now with slight surprise. Hinata got into a different stance. She was on all fours like an animal, and not her usual Kitsune-style stance. This actually looked like an animal than a human imitation. He didn't think it was wise to bring this out further, and ran up, hoping to end this and take Naruto. Hinata jumped up and spun just an inch above the monk's head as he slashed down, and she landed on the tip of the sword when it came back around. The man looked at this only to have his arm ripped off his body in Hinata's anger. He grunted and held his sword with his other arm. He looked to Hinata and seen something different. Her eyes were no longer the lavender purple they were when using the Zenkugan, but now it was blood red. Her eyes were blood red and they transferred all their bloodlust and want of his own blood to spill on the ground to him, and he felt it for the first time. Pleasure. He laughed, grinning wider as he flared his chakra. Fine, if Naruto is even stronger than this, then you both deserve my name. It's Kohaku Naraku Shinju of Shirohakumei. He sprang froth and met her attack head on, her claws keeping his blade at bay. He slashed hard, only to find her down and then strike up, cutting into his heart before tearing at his throat a little as he went back to dodge, or in this case, lessen the damage to his body. He laughed at this and brought his jagged crystal great sword down, and actually cut Hinata's toes off, but that was only his best shot at her as she forced him into the mountain and called out her final attack. Kitsune Danmaku, Issentsume Say Tsu, Kitsune Barrage, 1000 Claws of Purity. Her strikes were a blur, and even so, that did not mean the blood that spilt was a blur, as it did spill, everywhere inside the hole that was rapidly growing inside the mountain as Hinata's strikes not only ripped the man to shreds, but forced them into the mountain deep enough it would take a while getting out. After the 1000 strikes from Hinata she stopped, panting as she calmed down from the sudden rush and held onto her arm and stopping on her unharmed foot. She looked at the man, who was pretty much ribbons, but he grinned, and was still alive as he laughed lightly. You know, I'm impressed. No Hyuga has ever beaten me, but you had the power to kill me. Be glad of that little girl, but don't get your hopes up. My master is 10 maybe double the 10 times more powerful than I am. And he's after Naruto, so be on your guard or you'll lose him. She didn't say a thing before cutting his head off and ending his life. She turned and walked out of the cave she created and then started to use her Zenkugan to see Naruto's fight. Beikiju was currently standing off against Jintai, the Shirohakume member, and didn't know what she could do to totally cut him off from using his speed. She was breathing hard but smiled as she looked back. Next time, don't use all your chakra, it's a pain to have to come and save your ass. Lerxine, who was still trying to gain the strength to leave, smiled. Joke all you want, but it was the only way. Now get this bastard and meet me at the Hokage mansion. Beikiju nodded, and watched as the flash of yellow took Lerxine away. She sighed and got her 3 scrolls from her pack. Alright fucker, time to die. Beikiju attached the 3 and a heavy, mile-long chain took hold of her and she grinned. You're gonna wish you hadn't called my friend or me a bitch. She tossed the chain from her hand to nothing but air, and found her plan perfect. As she threw it she made sure to make it look as though it was heading to the enemy, and as she thought, he moved over the way she wanted and the chain took hold of his legs and forced him to the ground. Beikiju jumped high into the air and the chain and scythe took to the sky. Ultimate scythe technique. The man looked up to see her spinning the chain, and in the air was a circle, the scythe attaching to the chain to make it but also the chain itself attaching like a net in its form. Mangetsu Kira. Full Moon Killer. She forced the chain down and the net of chains fell hard, and began to rip, tear, slash, slice, and dice the man into peels of cheese, cutting him from head to toe where he couldn't even live no matter what, even if he was as immortal as Hidan. After the technique, the chain turned back into 3, perfectly tidy and rolled up scrolls in Beikiju's and as her other put her scythe back behind her. She ran off to the Hokage mansion and found Lerxine looking up, and she did too, to see Naruto in his lighting armor and fighting against pain. Lerxine smiled. Kill the bastard Naruto. Beikiju agreed. Force him into a grave and come back to our arms. They continued to watch as everyone else was off doing their emergency plans for this attack. Zetsu was currently in the stadium, looking around before disappearing into the ground and coming back up at Naruto's apartment, but before he could fully understand what was in the house he was kicked out the door by a blur. He got up to see a man who he didn't know, wearing his colors. I never seen you in this organization before, who might you be? The man grinned, his one Sharingan eye activating. Sorry Zetsu, forgot my swirly mask at home. Zetsu hummed a moment before grinning, both of his sides laughing. The darker side looked skeptical. Well, let's see, you've just kicked an ally, stopped an investigation of the Kyuubi's home, and are not helping in it. You're a traitor. Obito smiled. Always was, but thing is, now you're gonna die a painful death. Zetsu shrunk into the ground once more, hiding, but that didn't work as Itachi made a fireball and forced Zetsu out of the ground behind Obito. 2 Uchiha borns are more fearsome than you think. The white side of Zetsu looked shocked. Who else is in this little charade of yours? Obito grinned wider, reaching back and grabbing something, only for the hidden to appear. It was Kisame's sword, and as he pulled, Obito's skin melted and it showed Kisame. Kisame took his blade and brought it in front of him. I am sorry, but Akatsuki is over. Zetsu giggled, at least the black side. Well, seems to me only 3 remain in Akatsuki's fearsome force. That is enough to deal with traitors and demon containers. Now, I would advise you surrender before you're dead. Kisame didn't take too lightly to that and struck, cutting Zetsu off from his chakra and sucking every inch of it, grinning before the plant man gone into hiding. You forget, my sword is famous for eating chakra, so stop groveling and step out, or I'll personally have to eat you, and trust me, veggies don't taste too good to me, yuck. Just as Zetsu reappeared, he was hit blindly by Itachi's own eyes, and it was the Mangekyo. He was forced to be burned alive, then revived to be cut down, then again alive to be sprayed by plant remover, again and again dying differently and the same way over and over for over 5 whole days in Tsukiyomi. When it ended, Itachi burned Zetsu with a Maritsu and sighed, turning off his Sharingan eyes, which were bleeding now. Kisame stepped forth. You okay there, partner? Itachi nodded. I never managed to do it more than 3 days in there, but I finally achieved my goal before I die, having the ability to pull of 5 whole days and even a concentrated Amaritsu. Kisame grabbed his partner and turned him round. Look, you're not dying, now shut up and be happy for a change, will ya? So you killed your best friend, who cares? And now you're going to lose another brother. I don't really care about them, and neither should you. Sasuke chose his path and he alone should suffer, not you, and your other brother. He wants to die, because he knows he can no longer stop the forces of darkness from taking over. Now allow us to finally walk together into light. Maybe then you'll stop going blind, you ass. Kisame slapped the back of Itachi's head, and Itachi laughed. Kisame took a grin himself. They laughed for a moment before Itachi smiled truly. Thanks. Shall we? Kisame grinned, but before he could nod, a huge explosion took place. They looked around and saw a huge boulder in the air above the Hokage mountain, the face of the first Hokage gone. Naruto was in darkness and he sighed. Hinata, Lerxine, Bakiju, I'm sorry for this, but I must finish this. Jiraiya, I know you're watching over me, now watch, as I use this technique, for all it's worth you were the greatest godfather I could ever have. Ji-san, Sandame Sarutobi. Thank you for everything, and please, forgive me, but my place is no longer in Konoha. I will take my place, and raise it forever, as Naruto Namikaze, the Uzukage defender of peace. Kami, forgive me for soiling this earth, but this filth has stepped over what I did and now I must kill this trash and protect the earth you so love and made, and protect the people you smile down upon. Naruto roared once more, his armor coming back, but in his hand was not wind or lightning, but fire, a black fireball that rotated and spun wildly everywhere. Guka Rasengan. Hellfire Rasengan, or so I tried to do, he lashed out, and when he did, the very boulder he was sucked into, broke and he fell hard, forcing the Rasengan of fire into Pain's chest, which when he did, he also used his wind to blow the fire through the body and the lightning to open ways inside him to force the entire Rasengan into the Pain's entire being, and he accomplished that, as the Pain burned alive from the inside out in pain. Naruto stopped his armor and attack, standing above the village in full Kitsune form. He looked as the attack stopped. All Pains were gone. He knew as he finished 2, and the other 4 were carried out by everyone. He started walking off the mountain in attempts to find Hinata before returning. Kage stood in front of a large structure made of paper and looked carefully with his headband on. He sighed. It's time to face the music. Once he took that first step, someone appeared behind him. You have no place here, go and leave me to my business. Obito took Kage's shoulder in hand. He's still much stronger than anyone can imagine normally. And he has protection just in case. I'll take the girl, you finish off Nagato. Kage smiled. I know what you're gonna say, and I know no matter what I say, you're following me in. So you better get ready, because once you finish off the lady, I want you away from here. Promise me that. Obito sighed before smiling. Sure thing. Now let's end this. And they walked in on the 2 remaining Akatsuki members and bodies. Nagato didn't even move as the woman stayed standing still. Kage lifted his headband for the first time in 10 years, and when he opened his eyes, it shone the Mangekyo Sharingan, 3 lines going in an upside-down triangle, and a swirling circle of lines going clockwise, but also, they were pure sky blue. Kage smiled. Be honored, no one who's seen these eyes have lived to tell the tale. Not even my fiancé. He smiled sadly down, remembering Shikonaga. The very day before they were to be married in front of the entire village of Taki, he showed his eyes to her, and she had loved them, but, the next, when they separated on a mission before they were to return and be wed, she was killed protecting him from afar by a long-range fighter. He stopped smiling and looked hard to Nagato. I'll give you one chance, and only one. Give up and quit, or continue the fight, and die. Nagato smiled. It's wondrous I meet someone with 2 Kekkei Genkai, especially Hyuga and Uchiha Dujutsu Kekkei Genkai, but that does not mean you'll win. Nagato put his hands together and suddenly the whole earth started to shake. Cage jumped back in high, when the whole castle of paper crumbled. In his place and under Nagato appeared a giant creature, one that looked to be made from the very earth but also, completely unimaginable, as it seemed to radiate the very essence of lightning. Cage, who had foreseen this, grabbed his scroll and opened it, drawing his blood and swiping it before closing the scroll again, then clapping his hands over the scroll. Nagato was impressed Cage foreseen such an attack, but even more so he had a scroll out, as if to attack. How underestimating he was. Cage grinned and shot the earth into the sky and calling out. She who screams through skies like true wind, burn everything in her path like the immortal flame, electrify everything to dust and ash like the jolt of lightning, crush everything under the weight of your strength like the spirit of earth, and remake the world from your watery grave. I summon thee, Tiamat. A bright flash made itself known to everyone in Konoha, and in that flash, which vanished after a long period of time, a bright brown serpent-like creature made itself known and roared from its summoning. Cage was caught by this creature and flown up to the sky with it, and when the flash ended, everyone saw this giant creature and knew it is only one thing, and even Pain knew, as he called it out. A dragon. Cage bent down, and smiled. You told me not to summon you unless I was intending to die, and for this one, I am sorry to wake you from your slumber just for that. But I need your strength, and when I am finished you will have me. Tiamat had growled for a moment, BTU after that was said, this dragon was sober and calm. The reason for the creature's calmness was the thoughts within its head. Cage, I understand. You have suffered long, and I will help stop that suffering. Now let us finish this, so I may help you forever rest, and be rejoined with your special somebody. In a girly voice the dragon called. Let us crush this weakling Cage, and forever shall we rest. Nagato's demon and Cage's dragon rushed forth, and even their Hiroshin would have been jealous at the speed of which the dragon took off and tackled Nagato's demon in the air and rolled with it, Nagato and Cage forced to the ground to watch their beasts wrestle. Nagato landed safely on the ground and so did Cage, and Cage sighed. I seen every possible future, and it ends with us both dying. You first thought. Nagato hummed. How do you really see that in our future? Not even I can truly see the future, only able to know that I will make the world mine. Cage grinned. Sorry Nagato, but you're not going to live long enough for anything to happen. You see, having both the Mangekyo Sharingan and the Zenkugan, both active in both eyes at the same time ever since I obtained them, I've seen future, past, present of anyone connected to me by fate itself. The only portions of life on anyone on the planet I have not seen, is my past. I am unable to even know who my own father is, let alone my mother. But I have seen everything future prone up to the point I die, and you're first. Nagato didn't take that as a bluff, and decided to just kill Cage before being killed himself. Cage didn't let it take chance and put his hands together. No one's seen this technique, but you shouldn't feel honored. This technique is my greatest, yet deadliest technique, to both my opponent and enemy. Cage slowly turned to pure metal, his skin and clothes disappearing under the shining metallic of his technique. As soon as he was completely metal he called out in a metallic robotic voice. Midden. Henka. Metal style. Mutation. Cage stood still for almost a minute, the two monsters in the sky biting and scratching each other to death. Cage then sported sharp blades for feet and hands, and before even Nagato got a chance, he moved in blinding speed, zigzagging left and right, a blur of silver getting closer and closer, all in a single second as he cut the legs of Nagato's walker, only to find wheels take him away and then jack up into the air for Nagato to preform jutsu, shooting water to Cage, only to find nothing in the puddle. Cage got up and cut Nagato's arm off, to find a punch crush his chest into nothing and fall down. Cage stood on the ground and looked to his chest, which healed back into metal again. In a metal voice, Cage spoke once again. Henka is the ultimate forbidden technique. I am immortal, indestructible, and will continue that way until I murder one life, and that life is yours. Nagato didn't know what was going on, that was his best shot, and Cage took it like it was a fly buzzing by. Cage roared in a metallic low groan, and struck fast, and as his bladed hand struck into Nagato's heart, the dragon had killed the demon that way as well, its clawed hand forcing through the chest of the demon. Cage turned back and panted, grunting in pain as the technique was quickly taking its toll. Before it could though the dragon had shrunk quickly and took on its female form, a red beauty, not totally human but still not entirely dragon. She hugged Cage from the front. It's all right now. I'll take away the pain. As she said it, Cage felt the pain of the technique floating away, and smiled. His eyes turned gray though, no longer active. He looked to his dragon summon and nodded. I'm ready. May I make a request of you? Tiamat was confused, but nodded. Cage grabbed his headband and gave it to her. Give this to he'll know what to do. Also, I know about your suffering too, and I want you to He grunted and coughed up blood, a huge amount, and his eyes grew lifeless. She tried to ease Cage down and did so without further injury. Cage smiled, his blood flowing from his mouth. Naruto will be needing your power, but he can't use a summon, he'll need your strength as his own. Please, merge with him. Tiamat smiled. It was true, She had to battle her own husband and kill him to bring peace to a forsaken land, in which she was going to destroy the evil before, but now she was needed to keep the peace during moments like these, when man could not battle its own battles. She nodded again and laid Cage fully down. She grabbed something from her arm and opened Cage's hand, laying the object into it. She sighed. This was given to me by the king of Babylon, the first civilization of the entire earth. He called himself Cage, the Shadow. But that was also you, the king of a group of people, the king of all ninja. Now I must make Naruto just as strong. Take this with you to the other side, and know, you brought this world to peace. Cage smiled more, his eyes growing more and more dull, his bleeding from his mouth growing in volume. He spoke in almost a whisper, but clear enough. Thank you, Tiamat. You're the greatest friend I could ask for. Please. Tell Yon. I'm so, RRY. Ha. He breathed the last breath of his life, and with it, his soul left. Tiamat shed a single tear and held onto Cage's hand before a glow took over and she did what the contract in their agreement approved. The day he died, which was the day he would only call her to combat this once, she would take his powers into her own. It was the only way to keep her strong after periods of slumber, but his power was major, and it would work to give Naruto a better chance at the greatest battle of all time. After she was done, she cleaned off Cage and picked him up, carrying him back to the village town area. She knew it was the only thing she could do, to give Cage a chance to hear from beyond the grave, his friend's words. She soon found Obito, who was smiling a sad little upturned lip. He held a hand to Cage and chuckled. Cage was the best of us all. At least he managed to pass his legacy to Naruto before he died. Tiamat nodded before they walked back to the village, where everyone was waiting. It was going to be a very long day for them all. It was time, everyone who could gathered for the funerals of some lost people, but the most were with Cage. Tsunade, Naruto, Hinata, Lerxine, and everyone who knew him or someone who felt they did through others. He stepped up and took the booth nearby and taking the letter he was given by Cage the day before his death. He took a deep breath as he began to read. To everyone, I'm thankful for you all, to know you, to be friends with you, and to have fought beside you. To Lerxine, I'm sorry I could not have lived long enough for you to have beaten me for the first time since I came to Taki. As for my final words to you, I hope you live well, and keep everyone safe. Also, about your storming technique you used against one of the Peens, it was a well-formed jutsu, but you have a long way before you figure out my weakness. You might have hit me, that is for certain, but you would not have beaten me with it. Lerxine smiled sadly, scoffing lightly as it was said. Baka, I know that. She couldn't stand it any longer and let the dam flow, but only a little at a time. She cried and sobbed lightly in her hands as she tried to contain her feelings of grief. He sighed, continuing. To Tsunade, your grief over Jiraiya is well-founded, you fought him at every turn, but still you two connected much in your long lives. Try to be stronger for him, he knew what he was getting into. I know that you will see it this way when you receive his letter in your office today. Actually, forget me and read his letter now. It'll be okay. Have fun with your assistant though, maybe that will raise your spirits. Tsunade cried a few tears and let he stop for a breath before she got up and went to read the letter herself. In her stop she turned. Cage, you'll be the hero of Konoha and Taki together. Tell Jiraiya how sorry I am. She left quickly enough afterwards. He nodded and cleared his throat. To Bakiju, I hope you're not feeling too heavily about this. You know me better than Lerxine does. You know why I had to do this, and you should feel happy, I'm with Kana-chan now. Stay together, and know the power inside you is always yours, not a demon's. Bakiju just kept strong, smiling sadly but staying strong as Lerxine kept her sobbing to a quietness so no one would be bothered by it. She sighed though. It's always the same with you, telling me I'm not the demon inside me. Thank you, Cage. He took another deep breath and tried to finish the long letter. To Kushina and Minato, sorry to say this but you're going to need to stop yourselves from going overboard this time. Minato, as a former Cage I can understand your urge to help others, but this time it's Naruto's turn to do the same. Kushina, I think it's time to teach him the very last skill you have to offer. Afterwards, you two should really think about retiring and just being with each other. Stay well, my friends. Because he knew they'd both comfort the other and keep strong with their tears, he continued on. To Naruto, I know this is expected of me, since I have told you about me from beginning to end. Still, I'm sorry I left you before telling you the greatest secret to my midden technique. In the Namikaze Estates I have a rough version of my perfected technique, read it in a week, anytime before then and the scroll will burn anything close by to ash. I made sure it was a precaution just in case someone tried to take it and read it before you did. Make sure you only use the technique in the scroll against Shirohakume's strongest members. Naruto nodded and held Hinata close, hoping everything was going to be fine with their time before chaos roamed again. He continued. To Hinata, I never knew you, and your precious Zenkugan was the greatest thing to happen to you, but now you're getting to another great gift. Right about the time he gets to this, your father could very well be coming by to get you and pay his respects. Kage must have been a smart one to know I would come. Everyone looked to Hiyashi as he smiled, coming near them. Hinata, I want you to know, I'm proud of your skills. I think it's time for a change to the Hyuga family, and with you as leader. He sighed and read the next part. To Hiyashi, sorry to say, she's not going to be a Hyuga anymore. As I am sure you know as well as Minato. Hiyashi looked in confusion before turning and seeing his old friend. Minato. Thought you were dead. Minato smiled. I was till about the time Sarutobi took care of Orochimaru, Kage revived me. Now, I'm sure you remember the contract we made. Hiyashi took a far look before sighing. I remember. Hinata, be happy with Naruto. He laughed at that moment, and the sudden laughter of the highly stoic and passive man. Kage saw this, I swear it. Now everyone was confused more, but he took it away as he read again. I'm sure you two need to talk about this elsewhere. This is my funeral, not a reunion. Minato, Kushina, Hiyashi, go and talk, everything will be fine. Everyone smiled and took a small laugh before the three took off to talk. Now it was rather small service. He sighed, returning to his passive self. Hinata, you'll learn what that was about, but also, you need to know something. Tonight, Naruto will tell you something, and when he does, be mad at me, not him. Naruto, you understand what I mean, you made a promise to Bakiju, did you not? Naruto sighed. I wish it didn't have to be tonight I speak of it. Alright Kage, I hope you're happy up there. He continued the rest of the letter. I am you numbskull. Now, I thank you for everything, everyone here and that was here. You're all the greatest friends a guy could ever have. Naruto, one last thing, head to the Hokage mountain after this, I have one final gift to give. Everyone, I love you all with my entire being, I wish you all happy lives. Goodbye. That was the end of the service. Naruto and Hinata went off to the Hokage mountain and everyone else went their directions after Kage was buried in the ground. As Naruto and Hinata approached the top, they saw a red person on top. They got near and saw it was a girl with red skin, and when they met her face to face, saw the face of a dragon. Naruto knew this dragon and smiled. Tiamat, I'm honored. He bowed and Hinata slowly did the same, but Tiamat dismissed the formalities. So, you're the gift from Kage. I signed the summon contract. Tiamat shook her head. Naruto was confused now. Kage gave him something, and the only thing here after the funeral was Tiamat, his dragon summon. Tiamat giggled. It's been forever since I seen a pure Hyuga. I feel the power of ancient Babylon inside you. Hinata felt confused and Tiamat just giggled more at the cute face she made. I feel power. I feel everyone's power, from Hyugas to the Naras. Yamanakas to the Aburame. I feel your powers, and only the ancients of Babylon could forge such anger within you. Naruto and Hinata looked confused, but then Naruto gasped, smiling at Hinata. That's why you're stronger in battle. When you're in battle you get angrier, and with that, you can even pin me to the ground, don't you feel it when you fight? Hinata could only look confused, but after a little while gasped in the knowledge of figuring it out. I do feel like something's going on. I feel like I lose myself, or, actually, I feel like just attacking, not caring if I get hurt, I just feel like going all out without even knowing it. Naruto smiled more, almost grinning. Berserkers are the greatest of all warriors, it's amazing Hinata, you're a descendant of a berserker. Tiamat cleared her throat loudly, smiling all the way as they got their attentions towards her. Your gift, is me. Naruto felt even more confused. That's what I thought, I get you as a summon. Tiamat sighed. No, I mean, me entirely. Look, I have the ability to feel power, but also extract power. That is why I lived over 6,000 years, my contract is, if I am used in a battle that will kill my summoner anyway, I take their power when they die. But there is something else. I can give power. It took only a moment for Naruto to figure that out. You mean, merge? Tiamat nodded. My entire power will be yours. Now, don't think that's much. Dragons and demonic energies, like Kyubis, don't exactly mix well together, but you will be more powerful than now. Dragon energy will take your body and mold it into a perfect working machine of muscle, so be careful, you might find yourself tripping because you took a step too quickly or your legs aren't used to its potential being released. Naruto nodded and Tiamat took a deep breath before clawing her hands into Naruto's shoulders, and as soon as it was connected between them, the energy within her was boiling out of her body and transferring to Naruto, who was grunting in pain from the pressure. It only took a full 2 minutes, but afterwards Tiamat panted, going to the ground. Naruto took care and tried to get her back up on her feet, but she pushed him back. Tiamat was fading now, and smiled as she looked up at the two. You make good use of that power, Naruto. I didn't do this to save people, but because it was a favor to Kage. She suddenly turned to dust and was blown away. Naruto stood up carefully and felt nothing, nor resistance, no pressure, not even the simplest of stretches from his muscles. He felt a little different but didn't exactly know what it was. He found out quick as he turned to Hinata and tripped over his own knee. Hinata caught him and he felt like a dumbass right then. He slowly got back up and sighed, scratching the back of his head. Alright, she told me I might trip over myself. Maybe I'm just too quick to understand what I'm doing. He activated his Kitsune and looked to his feet as he started to walk, and this time doing it well without tripping. But it looked to him and Hinata that he was walking rather weird. He laughed and after a bit so did Hinata, though she didn't know why. Naruto stopped laughing and stopped about halfway through the street to Ichiraku. It's weird, I feel nothing at all, and yet it takes my Kitsune and very careful walking, which is a very weird walk, in order not to trip. Hinata put on a genuine smirk and decided it would be a good idea to go to her father and talk with him. She kissed Naruto and went off. He huffed a breath and stood straight up. Alright, you can do this Naruto, now just walk. He turned off his bloodline and walked slowly at first, then got to a normal walk before entering Ichiraku where the only one there was Ayame. In his mind he couldn't help but grin like the Kyuubi. He sat down and when Ayame finally got her stuff done, sighed and turned to see who had lifted the drapes. Welcome to Ichi Naruto, she said before falling down, failing to remember the slippery floor needed a little cleaning from her mistake a few hours earlier. Naruto leaned over the counter with his hand out and smirked. Thought your papa taught you better. Ayame groaned before taking the helping hand and being lifted up. She took a dry rag and cleaned the floor before feeling more at ease. Alright, sorry about that Naruto, you just surprised me. I didn't expect you here until after you grieved for Kage and Jiraiya's death, at least them if not the others. Naruto looked down sadly. Yeah, I only went to Kage's, I was kind of dragged into it thanks to he, another friend of mine. Jiraiya was my godfather, but, I think it would be best to just remember him and keep his memory alive then grieve and let go. Least then his legend lives on stronger than just being a Sannin. Ayame smiled, knowing that Naruto was really hurting, but acting tougher because of the two's connection. Naruto ordered a miso ramen with a special Naruto platter. He ate slowly, something Ayame never seen before but understood his way. After a minute he looked up. Ayame, there's something I need to ask you. Ayame felt a little curious. Naruto was slowly grieving, but acting tough, and just suddenly wanted to ask her something. She nodded, wanted to know what it was. Naruto smiled a little more, but still looked a little bit the same as before. How's your romantic life? Ayame had no excuse as to her sudden fall to the ground this time. Naruto rubbed the back of his head as Ayame's face came up, blushing tomato red and sputtering. Wah wah wah, what's that question all about? Naruto just tried not to spill any beans during this. Just asking. You're growing more beautiful by the day, someone's gotta ask you out someday soon, if they haven't already. Ayame huffed and puffed, trying to calm down from the sudden shock of the question in question. Ayame tried to relieve herself, and her beating heart, and it didn't work that good. But still she managed to get her blood pressure down. Next time you ask, make sure you don't give me a heart attack. Phew. Well, because of my dad, I haven't really been seeing any boys. He's getting older, I don't want him to suddenly break something if I can take the load off of him. Naruto could understand that, but felt it was time for Ayame to take a break instead. Sure, but what if you break? I mean, you're not exactly a wall of muscle, the best you can manage is one customer at a time, maybe two. 3 would be way too much alone. Ayame scoffed. Thanks a lot Naruto, a little encouragement would be nice. Naruto didn't back down. It's not that I don't believe in you, but take a look at yourself. Your body was made to do some running or have a good time out, not slave over 5 ovens for your father while he's gone. Get going and find yourself a guy to cling to. Couldn't have said it better myself. Naruto quick turned to see Tsuki opening the blinds, and then back to lean over and help a fallen Ayame back to her feet. After Tsuki got back behind the counter he chuckled. Yo, Naruto, glad to see you about. Heard you had a little romance in the stadium before the attack happened. Naruto's sweat dropped, getting a piece of Naruto in his mouth. Yeah, Hinata was just amazing in her fight, couldn't exactly contain myself from giving her a reward. Anyway, that's not really ramen talk. Ayame was thankful for the subject change but now I guess she needs to have her face flush for a while. Tsuki and Naruto laughed as Ayame did go flush red. Tsuki sighed. Ayame, it's true, you're working too hard, soon you'll be the one with back problems. I actually got a very interesting visit when I was making my runs. I happened to be going nearby one of the funerals and saw my old friends Kushina and Minato. Naruto's sweat dropped again, hoping no one else noticed. Though he did seem to take notice to Tsuki's calm demeanor. Ayame though was a little hectic. Minato and Kushina, you mean the 4th Hokage and his closest friend? Tsuki nodded, and Ayame then gave into panic. What? But the Yondaime is dead. How can he be alive? Naruto grabbed onto Ayame's shoulder to calm her and chuckled nervously. Well actually, that's the thing. He was brought back to life. He is a seal master after all, he made sure if anyone revived his soul, he'd be able to just revive himself completely and be his old self again. Ayame didn't take it too lightly, but at least she felt a little calmer. But still, he's supposed to be dead. I mean, he died for us, and now he's back. It's almost too good to be true, and too good to even be something good. Naruto took that a little hard. Hey now, that's my father you're talking about. He's been training me and I was able to take down the strongest of the attackers thanks to his help. Ayame sighed, calming herself. Okay, sorry Naruto. Still, what does that have to do with me working here with you two-san? Tsuki grinned. He's offered to help me out around here, take some load off of your back. Now, after today, I want you to go out and socialize. Ayame took a moment but nodded. Alright, as long as someone's here to stop you from hurting yourself. Naruto ate the rest of his food and got up. Hey, thanks Tsuki, I'll see you in Ayame later. Give my best to the missus okay. They nodded and gave him a good farewell before he walked out. After a few steps though he tripped and fell to the ground and groaned. This might take some getting used to. He got into his and Cage's apartment and sat at the window. Next time, try to leave us with a little more insight. I don't know what to do while I wait a day. Tsunade's probably getting her brains blended, Hiyashi is trying to stay awake, and Naruto's trying not to get himself in a bad situation. What do I while I wait? Lerxine had some insight. Try not to think about it. Better yet, try to get your butt in the grind. I just checked on Naruto. He's alone and eating at Ikiraku's, maybe about leaving the place. I'll be going and seeing what I figure out, while you get you ass up and do something. Lerxine was now kicking he into the floor as the two played around. After a good minute or two they stopped, Lerxine leaving. I know you feel like, without Cage, you're completely useless. Team Muteki, invincible, is slowly going away. Shikonaga-san died protecting Cage, and Cage died protecting this village. Try to think will you? What's next? Team Muteki's final member protecting what while dying? She left that moment and left he to his thoughts. He sighed. The only thing left is the world. I still feel useless. Shikonaga was the tomboyish playgirl of the team, always pounding on us. Cage was the greatest fighter and practically our leader. All I can do is genjutsu, and only one is my mainly used most powerful one. I can't even do anything without Cage or Shikonaga. He lifted the broken headband of Cage, and sighed again. You guys completed my life. I felt full, content, happy. Suddenly his medallion started to glow and he lifted it, and it took only a second but he smiled, not without a tear or two, but smiled and looked to the village. Alright, Cage, I'll try. He went to bed to rest for the next day, it would be a hassle to do without Cage to help him say what he needed to. Lerxine walked outside and looked up into the window just in time for one of his tears to fall next to her. Cage chose this. He was the reason behind his own sensei's death, and he felt responsible for Shikonaga's death, and felt even worse when everything about him felt lost besides his friends. He's finally happier than he could ever be, in death. So keep that chin up, and keep your soul shining bright. It's nearly time for Team Muteki to close the chapter to the ninja world. She smiled and walked for a moment before breathing in deeply and disappearing completely. Cage had taught her the very night before how to do a speedy retreat without wind or lightning. She was racing though, trying to figure out where Naruto might have gone, in order to help him out before confronting Hinata. Tsunade stared at the scroll on her desk, taking whatever courage she could in order to read it. She was just sitting there ever since the ending of the funeral. She couldn't wait though, and just ripped the scroll open, her eyes closed. After a moment she opened her eyes and began to read. Tsunade, I know this isn't easy for you. It's not for me, trust me. I leave my godson, my friends, my family of frogs. And my first, greatest, and only true love. Tsunade, I know I've acted like such a moron, such a baka hentai, but it was all I could do, not to give you my true feelings. What if I had? What if, in my haste just to tell you the true me, you'd hurt me? Not just pound my head to the center of the earth, but break my heart. That would not only compromise our teamwork, but also everything about us. Tsunade-chan, please, know I love you, I have since the first days we knew each other. I hope you enjoy the flower I have within the scroll, and I hope that you enjoy your new relationship. Cage told me about it before we left Taki, you should be happy, so please, keep that precious smile, and don't ever doubt your heart's feelings. Farewell, Tsunade-chan, Aishiteru. Tsunade opened the scroll more and found tape, keeping a flower she knew well in the scroll. She picked the blue bell and the tears flowed hard. She crushed the flower to her generous bosom and cried in her seat. BB. Baka, you should have. South Street stayed, with me. On the other side of the door leaned Shizune, holding the next orders for Tsunade, but she couldn't bring herself to give them, she didn't want to have Tsunade even worse for wear. Tsunade. She felt something hit her hard and she grabbed the knob, and stayed still. If only you could realize it, I'd probably make you feel better, just tell me. Tell me what I can do to keep you smiling. She shook, trying hard not to move anymore, knowing something inside her roared to get out. In her chest and stomach, it roared for release. It was a split decision, and she lost it. She blanked out to everything she did, and could only feel her body and hear her words as she stepped into the office and put the papers down on Tsunade's desk. Tsunade was still tearing up when Shizune came in, but managed a sentence. Shizune, what's going on? I'm busy. But that didn't stop Shizune, who went around the desk, turned Tsunade's seat towards her and pushed hard, making the seat lean back in her face, which could be seen tearing up too, in a slightly frustrated look. Shut up, you're sad. Jiraiya wouldn't want you to cry for this long. I've been out there since you started reading that letter to now, so stop crying and be happy. If you can't do so, I'll help. What caught Tsunade off guard, more than the sudden screaming of her assistant, was her sudden kiss. Shizune locked her lips to Tsunade's for a good minute, then began to wipe away Tsunade's tears. Tsunade, please, don't cry anymore. I don't want you to be sad, and I'm sure Jiraiya wouldn't want you to shed any more tears over an hour or two like you did. Tsunade was speechless for a moment, but she managed to open her mouth, feeling her strength disappear suddenly, replaces by shivers and cold-feeling skin. She couldn't move, only speak. What are you doing, Shizune? Shizune was using her medical training to keep Tsunade from punching her through the wall. Her hand in the back of Tsunade's neck was doing the work. She kissed Tsunade again and smiled. Please, Tsunade, I and many others, especially Jiraiya, only want you to smile and be happy. Tell me what I can do to make that happen. Tsunade's brain was working violently against her, as her body failed her. She could only think of how the kiss felt against her cold lips. It felt as if the only warmth would be from Shizune. She turned a little, trying to figure out what to do about this, but that only left Shizune to do more damage on her already broken mind. Shizune's hand trailed itself down the curve of Tsunade's neck, leaving trickles and warming sensations to run through Tsunade's body, and Tsunade could only whimper lightly from that sensation. Shizune caught it and smiled more. So, that's how I get your smile to shine again. Then get ready, Tsunade, you're going to scream for that smile. G. Shizune widened the collar of Tsunade's shirt and snapped it down to her waist, and because of Tsunade's weakness, her arms were bound for a good while. She instantly went to work on Tsunade's upper body, gently and slowly licking up and down Tsunade's neck, her fingers circling her master's stomach. Tsunade whimpered, trying to free herself and failing, even as she felt her strength slowly returning. Now that Shizune's hand was slipping onto her back and not stopping her brain's signals to her body, she felt weak from all the tears she shed, and she had to admit, it felt nice. Going from cold to warm was a wonderful sensation, and the slow pleasing ministrations made her want it a little love. Shizune knew Tsunade was slowly gaining her strength again, so she did what she had to ensure Tsunade's complete submission to the love she was giving. She went up and sharply, but gently biting and nibbling onto Tsunade's ear, sucking the lope into her mouth as her hands went separate ways, one going up and pinching her master's nipple, the other going down roughly along the chair and harshly giving Tsunade's wide butt a good grip. To her satisfaction, Tsunade's reaction was the one she was hoping for. Tsunade convulsed instantly, her pants wetting from her orgasm and her low moaning screams just barely penetrating the walls of the room. Before Tsunade could recall anything though, Shizune had practically cut her pants in half and jammed 3 fingers into her master's pussy, fingering 4 of her fingers thoroughly in and out of Tsunade's sopping wet pussy. Tsunade screamed aloud at that and Shizune could only smile lovingly. That's it, Tsunade. Feel the love. You deserve it. Not release. Come as much as you want. I don't care. Just be happy. I'll say she's happy. That face is so slutty. Both women suddenly jolted awake from their own little world and looked at the door to see Yugito and Kyubi entering. Both grinning extremely wide. Tsunade and Shizune looked to each other. BTU before either could move, Yugito and Kyubi tackled them. No way. You're not stopping. We want to make Tsunade smile too, but now it's time to make the 4 of us extremely happy. Now, Shizune, eat it. She shoved Shizune's head into Tsunade's thighs and smiled when Shizune caught the hint, and licked, moaned, and sucked Tsunade's pussy raw. Yugito took her garb off, and even her one-piece undergarment. As soon as she did, she took Kyubi's place, who was holding Tsunade down, and grinned as she suddenly sat on top Tsunade's face, grabbing the Hokage's hair and rubbed her slowly wetting pussy. Now eat me out. Come on, show me some of that love. Tsunade's fists clenched, but before Yugito could get up to do anything about them, they struck, but not hitting her. Grabbing her, and tightly before she moaned, having her pussy being licked inside and out, Tsunade's tongue hitting every spot of her aching horny pussy. She could hardly contain her moans and ground herself harder against Tsunade's loving tongue, wanting more to cool her in her demon's mating heat. Kyubi ripped off her robes and garbs, and lifted Shizune's dress to reveal nothing under there. Naughty Shizune-chan. Not wearing any panties. This calls for punishment. She didn't let her mouth do the talking, instead, allowed her fingers to and rub the assistant's pussy, its slick hot juices covering from clit to ass, and she could only rub it harder, her hand a blur as she tried to make Shizune come on the spot. The four experienced their pussies and feelings, their square of love showing, and the entire office of the mansion was being filled with their moans and screams. They didn't know who was listening, but didn't care as everyone but Kyuubi came, again and again on each other. Naruto sighed as he walked into his home, the Namikaze Estates, and with him was Lurksine. It'll be fine, we'll explain, and she'll understand. Besides, she's the main love, right? Naruto looked to Lurksine sternly before kissing the girl's cheek. No way, it's equally for all the girls I'll have. Besides, the law in Konoha states that I have to have multiple lovers and wives, especially to bear children. They climbed up the stairs and Lurksine defended this. Really, but soon you'll be a cage yourself. Shouldn't you be able to undo that? Naruto groaned. I could, but I'm no liar. Till Obito can bring that title onto me in Uzi, all I can do is claim my future status, not current status. Besides, if I'm ever going to get Uzi off its ass, I need some children, and not one every year. Lurksine was still unsure, but accepted it. Well, alright, how can we explain this though? It's not like Hinata will have multiple lovers. They opened the door to Naruto's room, where his father told him Hinata had gone to wait for him just an hour ago. He had been walking to get used to his new movements. As soon as that door opened, Naruto was passive like the trip there, but Lurksine wasn't so passive. You were saying Lurksine? Lurksine blushed and had a slight nosebleed before going limp and on her knees at the doorway. G. In front of them was a very shocked Hinata, as she was seeing them there, totally naked. And sitting on top of someone's face, who was currently eating out Hinata's pussy and not stopping. Naruto knew the dress though, and felt like passing out, but kept himself at bay by blushing instead. It would seem to me, Kurenai wanted to give you some pointers, Hinata. But I think it's safe to say we would do much better. At Naruto's sudden undressing, Lurksine took off her own black suit and both Naruto and Lurksine were totally naked. Hinata's surprise at Naruto's intrusion to his own room to find her having sex with her own sensei was now replaced by shock and excitement at seeing both Lurksine's sexy curves, and Naruto's muscles on his chest, and down below, and orgasmed right then at the sight of Naruto's 9-inch meat. Kurenai laid Hinata down, only to have Hinata raise again to look at the door with ragged breath. She looked to see the pair standing and blushed. I think I should go. Naruto and Lurksine grinned before they both pounced on Kurenai and Hinata. Lurksine was first and last to speak. You're not going till everyone's orgasmed, so come.